Thank you. Now we will be continuing with our public comments section, and you'll see the public comments are in the agenda, board members, and it is recorded in the minutes and our matter of public record by now. And the next item will be our financial reports.
No, wait a minute. I didn't understand what you were saying about public comments.
If you click, Ms. Franklin, on the public address section, you will see the comments sent us via Google Doc.
Oh.
Written there.
Didn't even see them. Okay.
So are we going to take time to read over these?
They're there to be read by the school board.
No substitute for having in-person public address.
Now, I wish we could come up, I guess that's not the time to talk about it, but I wish we could come up with a way to have true public address, even if it's allowing people to come in electronically to talk or something. But I think it would be something worth.
We'll work on it for the July meeting.
We can.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're getting almost 10,000 students back to school, I don't understand why we could not do public address.
Usually we don't have meetings in July. I'm recommending that the second meeting in July be held, which is July 21st. Okay, and I was going to talk about that later, but by then we'll figure something out. Okay.
You can, if you even do it, are we Zooming? Is that how we're doing this now, or is this no longer Zoom?
We'll figure it out. I
Okay.
promise you.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out. We'll get it right. Okay.
yeah, we definitely want to
Get through the,
get back to normal as much as possible.
and I mean, hopefully by then too, we're in phase 3, which will also allow us to, hopefully there'll be an increase in the capacity number of people who can be in one place. You got to remember, we're still in phase 2. Okay, and that limited things as well. So,
So the next item is paying our bills. May I have a motion to pay our bills?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions regarding the bills? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We pay our bills. The next item is our financial summary report. May I have a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the financial summary report?
So no.
Second.
A motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We approve our report.
Can I ask a question? So we never went to comment on that.
Sorry, I know.
That's all right. Yeah, I know. We normally don't.
Yeah. No,
Just wondering if maybe this isn't the time to do it. Maybe it'll be later. But can we see, or can somebody point out to us where the budget has been changing due to the changes in our spending and revenue, tax revenue? Is that something that we can?
On your FY20 budget, there's been no changes to those other than where we've done supplemental appropriation.
Okay.
The
Come to us.
changes that I think you're referencing, if I understand it correctly, is in the FY21 budget that was proposed, where we did move money within categories to true up where the actual expenditures were in that appropriate category.
I'm not sure. What I'm talking about is that because of COVID, we were expecting, even though we have a budget and we have a certain amount of money that we are, I guess I won't say guaranteed to get from the state.
That was the FY21 budget that we took out. We set aside 6.9, if I'm not mistaken, 6.95 million, approximately $7 million. So the budget we proposed was $121 million.
That's for next year,
And
right?
that's,
are you talking about end of year money and how we're doing with end of year money?
No, I'm talking about, from what I understood, that because of COVID, we're actually going to get less money from the state for this year, for FY20.
The sales tax.
Correct.
but in analyzing that, we did think, and it's coming true, that the categoricals that y'all had previously approved did not need an adjustment. That what we were actually spending
Yeah,
was not going to exceed on a category basis the
okay.
revenues that were coming in. As we showed on the FY 2020 budget, as we normally do, our revenues are actually, we project will be greater than our actual expenditures in FY 20, which has historically been the case of the system, but there's been no adjustment
No, I
to
understand.
the 20 budget.
If I'm understanding you correctly, we're still balanced, and that I understand,
Right.
right? On one hand, but the way I understand that we're still balanced is on one hand, we're getting less money from the state. But on the other hand, we have also frozen some
Correct.
expenditures. And that,
We did.
Yeah.
And we're basically shoring it up right now. This is, we have about a week and a half left in June. So with this week and a half left in June is when finance does their thing to then see how much money we have in the end that is our carryover.
Mhm.
And then that money will then, come to you guys for a recommendation, and hopefully then has to be approved by the board of supervisors, that carryover, to be then reused by us for something else. So we're finishing up what needs to be done this week or so,
Yes, sir.
in the finance department, to see how much money we did have left at the end of the year.
When we do that at the next, I'm assuming it'll be at the next meeting that we do that.
Yes.
And if it's the will of the board, I might appreciate hearing a little bit more detail, since this year has been a little bit different and we ended up spending a little bit, getting a little bit less money and spending a little bit less money. So it'd just be good to know where that savings came from and where we lost revenue.
Okay.
Or I'm happy if the board's not interested.
No, I mean, we can do it. The lost revenue is coming in the form of sales tax.
Sales tax,
and
right.
property revenue.
Sure.
Those are the two primary areas, so it's on our state side.
Yeah. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to see how it stacked up against what we were expecting.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
And Mr. Kranz will know that information as we close out the year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can
Yeah.
wait until
Not a
then.
problem.
That's something we do anyway.
Yeah, we have to.
Would tell you, where the savings came from. We do know we're not going to be over.
That's correct.
We will have money at the end of the year, which is good. We've done a good job at the end of the year, tighten the belt. And
Very certain of that.
know what would need to be done, yes. And then we're already in the process of, we've pretty much have figured out what we need to do where we need to put that money, probably beginning of the school year. And it's going to go back into things we need because of this situation, to be quite honest with you. I mean, that's what we're looking at.
Yes,
So,
sir.
yeah, that's fine.
I think we did all in favor. Did we did
We already voted, so, yeah.
and all opposed? You got there. I usually ask the discussion, and I don't know how I skipped it, but I'm glad we did. Next item will be our Dr. Meyer's announcements, superintendent announcements.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Karan. And, thanks to the board. First, I would like to thank all of those who came to the school board office this afternoon to show their support of the Black Lives Matters movement, because Black lives do matter. And, we listened to them. We heard the voices of many folks out there. And they asked me to actually answer some questions, and I did answer some questions, and I appreciate their willingness to listen as well. That was really appreciated. Earlier today too, I did a video message that went out with we've got a new link that we're using. We used it for the survey, or wasn't part of the survey. It was part of the email for the feedback for the opening of schools. And help me again, I will remember at some point.
Thought exchange.
Thought Exchange is the name of it. And Thought Exchange is very popular for the feedback that we're getting. And you can still go to Thought Exchange from the email that was sent out for the reopening of school, because that information is actually, we'll talk about tonight, guiding some things that we're doing. And how we're going to do it. We'll explain that to the board later. However, the Thought Exchange is being put up there also for this situation, and because we need input from the community as to how we can continue to move things forward in terms of equity, and we really want folks to participate in that. So we're going to send it out. In fact, we're going to send it to students. We're going to send it to our faculty and staff later as well, and the community, so they can be part of that conversation also. But in doing so, the thought exchange, we put a video on there of me and some things that I said, unless you go straight to the thought exchange. But I would like to read what I said today on the thought exchange, okay? We are at a point where we must refocus ourselves in some very important work in MCPS. MCPS is committed to promoting equity across our entire school division. We are proud of the work that we've been doing for the past 3 years, but realize that this work is only a beginning and we still have much to do. My work regarding equity did not begin when I came to MCPS. It's been in focus my entire career. I worked at Heritage High School and Lynchburg City Schools for 20 years as a teacher and a principal. We had over 60% minority population, where we worked to have no achievement gap between blacks and whites, and advanced placement classes were full of minority students. I brought that focus and desire to MCPS to increase minority achievement here as well. This is also personal to me. I'm a father of 2 beautiful brown girls who were adopted by their mother and me from Guatemala. This racism that will exist towards them greatly concerns me as a father. Our schools are a reflection of our society in which we live. The recent events nationwide have shown that we have much work to do. We do have a good start here in MCPS. We're committed to hiring a diverse workforce. Our minority hires have tripled over the last 3 years. Our suspension rates for blacks have been reduced from 11% in 2011 to 3% this past year. Yet it's still too much. We changed our gifted identification process to decrease the likelihood of cultural bias in that process. We've increased our graduation rate for blacks from 86 to 94% this past year. I'm excited to say that the draft of our new strategic plan has equity as a major focus. The school board will be reviewing this in the coming months. We've already had all of our administrators and 25% of our teachers attend a training on implicit and explicit biases. We plan to make that 100% by the end of this school year. This past year, we added a director of equity, who is Ms. Judy Diggs. There are a few school divisions in Virginia who have the specific person leading this effort, and we are one. Ms. Diggs has her own advisory committee that's made up of members from various black organizations, the LGBTQ community, the Hispanic community, and various religious affiliations, students, and parents. Again, we're doing great work, but we still have work to do. The MCPS is committed to doing this work. We're asking for your input in the thought exchange. Mrs. Diggs and her committee will be working through the comments in order to continue to move MCPS in a positive direction as it relates to equity. Thank you for your time to provide your thoughts in this exchange. We want to listen to you. We want to hear you. We want your involvement on how we can improve what we're doing. Any new ideas that you would like to see us implement. So again, we need to hear, today was a good start outside, but we need to do the work in here. Our school board needs to do the work. I know I've got a team of administrators that are sitting here today in our central office that are committed to this work and are ready to do this work. And I could ask for no better team than the folks I'm sitting here with right here today. And these administrators to do this work for our black students. So I'm excited as we move forward. I know it's hard times for everyone. I know it's tough, but that's not going to stop us from doing the hard work. And I'm committed to that and just want to let the school board know that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Next will be our board member reports, and I always let my board members share their reports first. But I'm sorry?
We don't have that on the agenda.
It's not on there.
It's not on the
It's
agenda.
later on in the
Board
agenda,
member
isn't it?
reports?
It's not anywhere
It's
on
later.
there.
I thought I saw it on the agenda later
Not on
on.
there at all.
Okay, maybe
No.
I have to.
I swear I saw it at the end.
Sorry.
It's
If you
not
don't
on
like
the,
to add that to the agenda, you're welcome to do that. Usually during the second meeting work session,
Oh, you're right, it's not
they're
there.
not reports.
they're not reports, right? Just at the first meeting.
Gotten all sort of
Must have been looking at
backwards because of all the
Gotten off.
It must be that I looked the old one and then never refreshed my, well, that's all right. I can always share it when it's time, next time around.
That's right.
Then the
If
next
y'all would
time.
like to amend in the middle and y'all do reports, you're welcome to do that. Y'all want to do
Is
reports?
there any
No.
interest
Okay.
in that? If there's
Well,
no,
I would like to say something.
We can say it under unfinished
Yeah,
business if it
unfinished
relates to
Yeah,
the things from last meeting.
or announcements.
Okay.
unfinished business is a good
Sounds
place.
good. I'm sorry, I was looking my.
Yeah, that's a perfect place for it.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
on refreshed agenda. Confused me. Then we are continuing with Head Start MOU. I should have looked this way.
Okay, Head Start. So, Ms. Whitaker?
Yes, so we shared with you earlier our Head Start Memorandum of Understanding. It is an updated memorandum this year. We have been partnering with Head Start, but it's going to look a little bit different this year because, as you're aware, we lost 2 pre-K classes. Even in light of all of the conversations that the governor was having about increasing pre-K and increasing access for students to early learning, we lost 18 student spots. So that relates to 2 classrooms for us. And so what we were trying to do is see what we could do to reach out and continue to serve those students within the budget constraints that we have. So the Memorandum of Understanding with Head Start will allow us to put one of those classes back into place, and it will be a blended approach. And what that means for us is the supports that we'll provide are the space, the instructional material, and then the agreement to provide lunch for those students as well. Head Start will fund the teacher assistant, and a part-time assistant as well. We will have the opportunity to be engaged in choosing who that staff member is and work together with them. But it will allow us to continue to serve our students in Blacksburg, add another class back in, which we feel is really important, and to, expand that partnership with Head Start and meet the needs of our kids.
I'm very excited. I am just
Yes.
very excited. We are moving in a new direction on that and kind of thinking outside the box to do what's best for our students.
I applaud Emily Altizer for her work in that. She really worked collaboratively with Head Start. They're excited, we're excited, and it's going to provide us the opportunity to serve kids we wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Great.
It's exciting.
Excellent. Okay. The gifted plan?
You were provided the gifted plan for review. We do have Ms. Knapp here with us today. If you had any questions that you wanted to ask her regarding the plan.
This is a first reading. If you have any, if you don't
Yeah,
have
it's
questions
first
now.
reading and then we'll-
Yeah, if you have any questions between now and the next meeting, feel free to give Ms. Knapp or Dr. Wickham a call. They'll be glad to walk you through anything you have any questions about. Okay.
And I have a quick, as far as this plan, is there any areas that you want to highlight that are, that have changed or changed significantly since, I did look through it, admittedly, I'm not necessarily an expert in this area, and there's a lot of material here.
Oh, yeah.
So I was kind of looking for an executive summary. I didn't find it, so.
When my parents looked at it, they said, do you want us to read all 63 pages?
Yeah, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
so.
what we started with was work back in the fall to look at the pieces based on information that we were getting from our stakeholders, our parents, our students, our teachers, and then our GRTs. And then we got a technical review from the state. And so there were 4 areas from that technical review that we went back to the plan and did a little more focus on. One was making sure that we really examined all those pieces of our identification process and they're intentional. So even though we may have a test that says this is for all students, how are you using that test? And if you have a document that you're using in your ID process, make sure that it's intentional for our ELL students. So I think in that first section where you'll see the objectives, we've really tried to lay them out for you. I think it's pages maybe 6 through 9. Yes. So that tells you in each of those areas, we separated the identification piece, delivery of service, and then there's a section E that talks about the equitable representation of students. So that would be one area as well. Another piece that was brought to our attention was to do with our policies. And so that's a big section back, if you look at if you wanted to look at your plan back on page 30 there's probably 5 pages in looking at what our policies are and how that affects all students, including our gifted students. And so one of those pieces was making sure that our policies are so that we have not only a delivery of service model that allows those students to learn at the level that they need to learn. So again, I spent a little more time in that section, and that will be one section if there are some policy changes. Again, I talked to Mr. Pauly today. What we've done is we've allowed, by having opportunity to have a virtual school, we're allowing students that may choose that option now, where I was always concerned about that equity of choice of coursework because our students were in some smaller high schools. Now that's really going to open that opportunity up for some of those students. So you may see that little change there as well. Last piece I think that came from the technical review was just to make sure that we had said something about the Gifted Advisory Committee. County, the language of the state is may. We use the word may. In this document, we use the word will, because our division does really respect having the value of parents be part of an advisory committee. So I changed that, or we changed that, because we had a small group that was part of that process. So that was changed as well. So I think what you'll see, the last piece that they brought forward to our attention was that the iLead being our alternative model that we're using in our elementary schools. 4 years ago, it was sort of a dream of where we were. Now we've piloted, we've been in 4 schools, we're ready for more implementation. So it asked us to be a little more specific about what iLead is. And so you'll read more about what the curriculum is, and you'll see those pieces being more of a site-based model. And then division emphasis that the delivery is within the individual schools.
Ms. Knapp, I've had a few parents come to me and with some concerns about the involvement of the Gifted Advisory Committee in this, how involved they were in this plan, and also how we got parent involvement. If you could give me an idea of how the Gifted Advisory Committee was used in putting this plan together, and if you could also give me an idea of how, public input, who did we ask for input, who did we involve in gathering that input, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. The gifted resource teachers or the gifted staff started this work, and then we set a timeline for being able to complete the work. I presented the timeline to my supervisors, being Dr. Wickham and Mr. Pauly, and we set up a schedule from January through August of completion of the plan. So I have that document that they've approved that I could share the pieces with you. At the January Gifted Advisory Committee, I shared the technical review, and we went over the pieces that we needed to complete, or the things we needed to focus on. Some of the pieces in completion are not just the Gifted Advisory Committee is 5 parents. I reach out to 1,000 parents. So a document that we used in getting input about iLead was the 4 iLead schools, or schools that didn't have iLead yet. The document that I used for communication was a communication document that went out to all of the parents of identified students. The pieces that I focused on with the GAC, the 5 committee members, is they were on specific areas of the plan that sort of met their expertise. So I had one teacher, coach / parent that's a math coach. So she's been a really big part of the math piece. I have the co-leader or vice chair of the GAC. She's on a small group that's part of changing our web page. So each of those 5 have had multiple pieces. All of them that were also parents of identified students had the opportunity to give some input as well.
Do we reach out to parents of students that aren't identified? Only because it's possible that they might actually, I think it's helpful for people outside of the gifted community or whatever,
Yes.
To have input also.
Yes, and it was posted, we posted it out on the webpage and let our schools know as well that it was posted out on the webpage. So I did get input from parents of identified gifted students, and I did get input from parents that were not, that may have had concerns about our programming and how that affects their students as well. There was a question from the GAC about them seeing the final document before you did, but I think they checked with the state as I did and Dr. Wickham, and I think they were part of the process. They helped us put the pieces together, but that document doesn't have to be approved by them before it comes to you for your approval. So I need approval from the school board. And then part of their job at the GAC is to do an annual review of the plan. And so then they'll have an opportunity, once we have a plan, to be able to give some input on the implementation of that.
Wouldn't it be good to get their input before we approve the plan?
Well, there's a little bit of a language difference that's happening, I guess, right now, is their role as part of a GAC is to look at the previous plan. So we're actually in a year where we're finishing up a plan and then we're beginning a new one. So they'll be doing their annual recommendations. That they'll also have some recommendations based on how well the program or how well the division did according to the previous plan. And then in planning with them now, I believe they're going to be also adding some information that they believe either will be in this new plan or other ideas that they have separately as parents.
So the GAC gives input on the plan that was just completed.
Correct.
Correct. And it's a year-to-year plan. Right?
Correct.
So they give input now, but I'm assuming that plan gets used, or that input, gets used to inform the next plan?
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
or revision. So what happens is that next plan, they will, their annual review, the purpose of the annual review is to help make recommendations. So yes, they will be able to, well, they can do that now. They can create any recommendations based on knowledge they have of the program or the plan, or many of them were even part of what we did as a staff is the goals and objectives are laid out for you, as statements. And once we have a plan, we'll be able to move forward with those. But the gifted staff has already taken each of the goals, each of those objectives, and sort of, worked with it to really put in some good details. And so I worked with the GAC on the one, I think it's the last one would be parent community. So the goal statement about parent community, that had all of the GAC members on it. And then we talked about how we want to make sure that we're finding parents from all communities instead of just 2, which we have representation from right now. So our goal is really to broaden that parent piece and have representation. And that will come to you in the fall. Once we're back at school and we have the opportunity to get some more interested parents.
So who looks at the test to see if there are biases in that? How often?
Our tests change and they get updated. And so Carol Jennings, who is our test coordinator, I work with her to find a test that can be sort of an unbiased test. We moved from using an assessment to using the Naglieri, so that would be one that would be more of a one that our students wouldn't have to have a particular reading level to be able to take. So it's our ELL students, as well as some of our ELL, our Spanish speaking, our Chinese speaking students that are using that test as well.
Let me say this too. Let me remind everyone that 3 years ago, that's one thing that we did. We had someone actually come and audit our gifted process. Mm-hmm. And one thing that was talked about in the process was the process need to be better, and especially when it came to biases and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. That's when we implemented the MAP testing.
Correct.
It was recommended that the person who did it she was former head of DOE for the for gifted programming, and that was one of her recommendations, is to move to the MAP testing, which is seemed to be not biased.
Mm-hmm. One thing that we have worked towards is moving towards. We do have a process that's more a division based for making decisions about that final decision for whether the student qualifies for the program or not. But our screening pieces are all done now site-based, where the principals know the students. So at those discussions, we're really looking at the students of that building. And I think our principals, having our special ed, we have multiple students that are dual labeled. So again, now we're having the special ed teacher at that meeting. We're having the ELL teacher at that meeting. So we're really broadening that scope of who's there, just to move from that language of screening to referral. And the state still says it just can't be that one test. We have to be looking at the whole child. And we haven't moved to a process where we just use a test anymore, because we really want to have a process that looks at the whole child.
So yes, that's one thing that was definitely important to me when I first saw how we did things, is that it wasn't one thing, it was multiple things to determine it, because we were in a situation where a lot of times I've found from previous experiences that students who did not know English yet were actually gifted, but they didn't know English, so we could not identify them as being gifted. Now a kid who comes to us and doesn't know English can actually be identified as gifted. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because of the processes that are in place.
Right. And then using some of those screening pieces that allow for sort of that STEM look or that PBL look that you're creating, instead of just taking an assessment of your English and your math ability, even though that's what our program says we serve. When you look at the screening pieces, we talked about MAP there. We use something called the keyword observation inventory, and the pieces that they've added are looking at that student that might just be a behavior student, that still could be a child that you want to look at for gifted, or Black students, or ELL students, our students from low socioeconomic areas. So what we've tried to do, I think we built those in, but we weren't intentional in probably telling our teachers. And so what we've tried to do, probably more so in this plan, is let's be as intentional as we can. And why are we using those pieces that we're using?
So referrals, how do those happen? Who is involved?
Anyone can make a referral. The state guidelines are referrals. We start with MAP in the fall. And so most of our identification, or we begin with identification with second graders. So we've had a universal, or the beginning of the MAP assessment in second grade. And so we start with multiple pieces where students are reading. Some students are reading 2 years above grade level. We have this observation, Kingborough observation, that all teachers do for all students, that comes forward. And then we have a MAP assessment. And then lastly, we have some what we'll call school-based assessments or school-based observations. that our teachers are bringing forward, and that could be students that are working, again, 2 to 3 years in understanding of reading and then math as well. So that comes to a school-based committee or a screening committee, and then we'll have students that will move from a screening process to referral from that meeting, but then we'll also have parents, students themselves that will self-refer. And then if they self-refer, the state guidelines say that we take them through the process.
I have another question.
Mhm.
Were you, I'm sorry, Penny.
Yeah.
Okay. So once a student's referred to gifted, what do we do? So you say they start in second grade. So in second grade, they're referred and they are identified as gifted. What do we do to assess them in the future to identify if they should still be considered a gifted student? Because I know as a former teacher
Right.
that often students, and even as a parent, who are identified as gifted, maybe at some point in their younger age, they don't necessarily or really track that way as they get as they go along. And so now you've got people who are identified that maybe don't need to be, as well as people who should be who aren't, which is another thing. But I'm just wondering, what do we do to make sure that
Currently,
doesn't happen?
our policy in Montgomery County is once you're identified, you stay identified. That also happens with our transfer students. So if that's an area that you think we need to retest or reassess students at a certain point, of course we can do that. What happens is it doesn't, students don't always stay identified. You'll read in the process here that we change services. So if we have a student that was identified in the early grades in first grade or second grade, and we find out in 5th or 6th grade even that the student is not doing their work, and or some professional comes to me or says this child shouldn't be identified gifted. First, we look at the paperwork and say this is why this child was identified. And sometimes they just don't want to do what the teacher is asking them to do. So we really sit down, we go to that self-assessment, take them to a team, and sometimes we remove services. So if we're taking students, pulling them out of a math class, and the student needs math remediation, then we don't ungift them unless the parent says. The parent says, those parents don't want you to take their child's label off. But they are willing for us to say, I need to change the level of service that you're giving my child, because that child may now need some additional reading, or that child may need additional math because the math is harder. So, so we changed, the state says we don't have to ungift. If the board says you want us to, have another policy or have another time where we would reevaluate our students, there are divisions that I've read a lot about that will, once their students move into middle school, where all students can make that choice of what their coursework can be. That can be an option as well.
The only reason I ask is because I know some of my concerns would happen that you'd have students who are identified as gifted, they'd be pulled out of a class where they actually needed to be, they needed to be in that class.
Correct.
Because I hate using the word gifted because the word just bothers me, but they were not at the same level as some of the other students who were being pulled out, and they're missing their class and missing out on really important instruction. And so, and I think that assessment, having those reassessments is important. I also am concerned about the referral process, because I do think we miss out on identifying students who could possibly be gifted, but because of whatever their circumstances, their parents aren't referring them, or maybe their behavioral issues, and so immediately the thought of them being gifted isn't considered. I think that's something we need to focus on more, because I think that there are students who could benefit from it who are out there, but just thoughts.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I mean, when you say that the map testing, that's the first thing that actually
Correct.
raises the flag, correct?
And in the spring, we'll, even though that larger pool of students comes from second grade, we have students that walk into our kindergarten classrooms that are fluent readers and are already doing math 2 and 3 levels above grade level. So do they need to be identified gifted at that point? Maybe not, but they need strong differentiation. So we have to work with the classroom teachers at that point to help those students because they want to learn something new every day, or they get to school and they say, well, the children are saying school doesn't meet their expectations. So by springtime, usually then we'll have good data in our schools that show where these kids are reading and doing mathematics as well. And so we do have, the state says, I have parents that in this county that think we shouldn't identify kindergarten or first graders, but the regulations and the state says we do. So
Says that you have to, or that you are allowed to?
it says the recommendations say kindergarten through, and I believe we need to leave that option open because I have met students that needed to be identified as kindergartners. And so having that option that opens up that little pool of when I'm sitting with the principal of the building and saying, okay, let's look at your data sheet for your kindergartners. Let's look at your data sheet for your first graders. And so this year coming up, we might have 10 first graders across the county that will be identified. It's not a huge number, but it is a group of students that, based on the data that we had, needed to move forward in the referral process.
Snap, in middle school, aren't the students that are being pulled for gifted now happening mostly during the IE time? Is that correct or not?
Yes, depends on the classroom. We've moved to a model that we're, our students now, one of the things that came from the recommendation is they felt like our middle school model was not strong enough for all students, not just our gifted students. So in the last, I guess, 3 years with Dr. Meyer's support, we now have 3 math courses that our students can take. This is all, not just your identified kids, because we have many, many students in our school that their parents choose not to have them go through the process or be labeled gifted. So when you look at who's in algebra, in 6th grade or 7th grade. So now we have the option for 3 math courses if the student needs that. Our world language, they can get a high school credit there. And one of those recommendations was for us to move to English honors. And so worked with Dr. Meyer, and she's worked with our county in having that option now for our 8th grade honors English and our 7th grade honors. So we really feel like we've built a program in our middle schools that we have choice. So that's not just gifted, because that's what Mr. Hawley will remind me, that's just not gifted kids, that's for all our students. So I think in our science, we have that option too. So I think we've built a program that allows for students that want that rigorous curriculum. What the ILE did, Dr. Meyer, is that allowed us, because we have asked, we believe our students should do some research. And what happens is when it's just the IE time, and we've gotten better in this division in what we do at IE time. At the beginning, some of them saw their peers going outside or getting to choose something fun, and then they were working on a project. So we've had to work individually with each principal to say, how are we going to work on that independent project? How are we going to support research? Because these students should be doing some research, and they should be presenting their models. Those of you that have come to their presentations, I mean, they're presenting on a national level, our middle schoolers are. And this year they did it online. So very proud that they did it during the COVID time. They finished their projects, their resource teachers met with them, and really good, substantial projects again this year. How that's going to look this coming year, We don't know.
And that's to be discussed here soon.
Yeah, I definitely missed the time to visit and see those projects. I think this was,
So I guess my plan is to have, the meat sort of looks the same. So if you've read the gifted plan before, I'll come back, or please send me questions. I'd be happy to answer them about the plan if you want to see any of the, how we've sort of fleshed out those objectives and goals. Again, that's going to change a little bit because those are the GRT goals. And as we look at how we're going to measure growth, how we're going to communicate to our parents, what our curriculum is going to look like, coming up, will it be that same document? I think that's what I'm hearing from my parents, all parents, not even the GAC parents, is they want to know what you're using, what curriculum, what's happening with their students while they're at school. And a big chunk of that time is with their classroom teacher that teaches them English and teaches them math. So again, we need to get a little better probably at reporting growth and how we're using pieces of the curriculum.
So, one more question, unless
Yes.
you spur another one.
Okay.
And Sue hit on it a little bit. And you mentioned it. So our students who may be seen as having a discipline problem, which can be disproportionate, how or is there something in place to say, maybe we need to test that child to see if they're not being challenged, to make sure that they don't belong in the gifted program because we just think there's a discipline issue.
That's really that piece of that observation, or that as I call it, the KOI or the Kingor observation piece. And actually we take that document to the classroom teacher that's saying, and we tally it. It actually has those opposite behavioral indicators that help us find those students. And that does the same thing for different students as well.
I've done that Kingor test before. I'll be really honest, I don't think it's that effective, but I think it's it puts the onus on the teacher to answer a lot of questions that I don't know if it really truly identifies.
Oh, it doesn't identify, it's just a piece of.
Yeah, it's a very small piece. At least that's and having had to use it before, being given to me to identify, often, at least my experience has been, it's very often parents will ask for a student to be identified. And then they give you this test to do for a student, and it's not an easy one to really assess as a teacher. I think it's difficult, and I don't think it's all encompassing at all.
No, it's just as I agree with you, it's just one indicator and one piece.
So this is going to go back to my constant talking about biases and how that can be influenced, so that I don't have time to do this with this child because they're a problem anyway. What's the checks on that? What's the, who follows up to make sure that what has been tallied up is correct?
The onus on that is myself, the committee meeting. So, and as we're working with our principals in their screening meetings, at the end or at the last 3 years, we're actually asking that question. I need you to, we ask the question, I need you to look at your ELL students. I need to look at your Black students. We found out that we have a group 2 years ago that staff did some analysis of their own schools, and we found out that some of our students the parents are not designating them as Black or African American as far as they're mixed race students. So now we're having to start looking at all of our mixed race students as well as our Black students as well. And are we finding those students? Are we finding those low SES students? And am I finding the ELL students? So myself, the principal of the building, and we have a committee that pulls together, and that the GRT will bring the folder, bring the data sheets of what we have on this child, and then we make a committee decision based on that.
Thank you.
But, I've told everything that we need to do as we're reaching out is if you look at the KOI, if that's not working in building, do we take away the check sheet and do it online? If that'll be a better option for a teacher. Always open and tweak something to make it better for all students, make our process better. And I think when you look at our objectives, is we're always looking for that next piece or that next test that's going to make it better for our students. So we have to really take the time to intentionally look at the tests we give this year and what students did we find and what students did we say no to, or what students came to screening and because they didn't score on the map. And that's going to be a concern this year because we're missing some instruction. So if we are able to do math and we're looking for that, that upper 90th percentile kid, then there's going to be some changes in our processes for this year. I think what the state tries to do and what we as a division have always tried to do, it's multiple criteria. So we're not going to just use the test.
Okay. Thank you.
I wish I could.
Ms. Knapp,
Yes,
to
ma'am.
kind of touch on Penny, what Penny said with testing, how much were the SOLs scores considered for the gifted program? And I know we put a lot of emphasis on our testing programs. What about the children who make like straight A's, but then they may not make over and exceeding 4 on an SOL? Are those even looked at? Because I know there are children that know the material, but then when they have a test, they might not perform as well because of whatever reason. But maybe that doesn't mean that they don't need to be in the program just because they didn't hit a percentage on a testing score.
On a national norm,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, difference from that. So when you asked me the question about how we use SOL grades, those are considered performance indicators from school level. So SOLs are minimal competencies. So we write down, we discuss, we bring that SOL score, if the student has one, to the committee.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of the discussion, but really not a piece. It's in a column that just says, this is how the student is doing. So if a student is scoring 600, if I have a 5th grader and they scored math 600, 600, 600,
Mhm.
that would be some type of indicator, but it's not a determination of whether we would identify. We don't use SOLs. Same thing about grades. Grades is an indicator of whether they do school well, but not whether we're academically gifted. So again, it's a piece and it's part of the discussion or part of that data table
Right.
for a child, but not used. You won't become identified based on either of those or not using those. It's just another indicator from a classroom teacher. This is how well this child.
So it's just like a piece of the puzzle,
Piece of the
basically.
puzzle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But we will have parents that believe because the student did score that high on the SOL that they should be gifted. And that's not,
Reverse, yeah. That's the-
yes.
Right. Right.
So again, it's all the pieces together to pull it together to make that decision.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry to have taken up this much
That's
of your
all
time.
right.
It's all right, you're answering.
We took up the time.
Barbara earlier today, I said, don't think I'm supposed to come, but Here's the binder.
If you think of anything, after tonight, just give Diane or Barbara a call. They'll be able to answer your questions, but we'll approve this next meeting. So thank you, staff.
And that will be in August or the second?
Actually, I'm
July.
asking that we have because so much going on, we have that second meeting in July. Yeah, keep it.
Because as we move forward, I think that's hard for the GAC too, is when we start school, we want to have a plan in place. So I really want to have something that we can move forward with your all's approval. And then we can start the year, we can change our website, we can really move forward. We're just,
In limbo.
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time. And reach out to me, I'll be glad to even share some of those pieces with you or review any of that.
All right, next.
The next we have for you are Title I, Title II, and Title III applications. The biggest noted change for you this year is we have taken in the Title II budget, taken on some administrative costs. So you are allowed to use a certain amount of that budget to pay for salary. And so that budget has been managed by me this year. It's the only program that I personally manage. And really, it needs the attention of someone who can really attend to it. So our Title II budget is our professional development budget for those programs that are federally funded. And so Emily Altizer will be assuming those responsibilities and overseeing those title programs. We've consolidated to put all of those under her. They were kind of split out. So she was doing Title I was doing Title II, and Dr. Michael Niemeyer was doing the Title III budget. And so she'll take over the management of all three of those, which really helps to streamline it. But then also we are able to put some of those expenses for salary under that area. And so that's the biggest change there, is we're able to put, I think we put 20% in that fund so that we are able to fund that through that federal stream, which does help us in the budget crunch, but also allows us to have someone who's really going to get their time to that job. You know, I've done the best that I can in managing, but we get hundreds and hundreds of PD requests every single year. And we really need to make sure that they are aligned to our strategic plan. We had put some new processes in place this year to evaluate every request and make sure that it was connected to something that we were trying to do as a school division. And I think as we move forward with our strategic plan, professional development is such a huge component of that. We really wanted to have a PD person, and we're not able to do that at this time, I don't think, but this is at least getting us that next step until, I know that'll be a recommendation of the strategic planning committee is to hire a person for that. And until we are able to do that, I think this is a really good move for us. And Emily will do a great job with that.
So
we need a motion, right? Yeah. May I have a motion to approve the Title I application as presented?
So move.
Second.
A motion and second. Any questions to
And it's not just Title I, it's the title.
title applications? Yeah. Any discussions? Further questions?
I do think that it's a good use of money to have somebody devoted to that. I mean, I think we've seen that in other areas where maybe at first glance it seems like you're not being as efficient, but I think by having somebody dedicated to some of these roles, it really does help. So I appreciate that.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We approve our title applications.
Okay, thank you. Next item. Policies in dealing with virtual schools. Mr. Pauly's here to answer any questions you may have, but we're asking for approval of this tonight.
May I have a motion to approve the policy 7-2.4?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Now any discussions? Any questions to Mr. Pauly?
Okay, so I can see where this is a good thing, but I still have that concern that I had, was that last week, about the transportation piece, where we have children, unless something changed with that, because on mine where it said highlighted, nothing was
And I know
highlighted.
what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Talking about the line where it says that if students involved in the virtual school would like to take selected courses or participate in extracurriculars, would like to go to the school, do that, they would have to provide their own transportation. Yeah, I think I remember Dr. Meyer answering that question, and it is that we even have in our strategic plan proposed that we look into providing an activity bus for our current students. I think you pointed out too that that's a problem for our current students as well. It doesn't provide equity of access to those things. So that's in there under our current available resources to provide opportunities like that. I think as we accept or look into stuff at the strategic plan, if we can come up with ways to overcome that, we'll do that for both groups.
At some point, I think one thing we really need to look at through the strategic plan that I know is coming out of the strategic plan, the transportation piece is activity buses. I think that is that's something I've been used to for many years. I mean, when I was in Lynchburg always had activity buses and after school for kids who have to stay after school, whose parents go pick them up, and that kind of thing, and provide that type of access for extracurricular activities. And
we would extend that to these.
And so that's one thing that we want to actually work on as we're moving forward. As for a kid who wants to come and take one class, what I would envision happening, Mr. Krantz, is that if a kid wants to come and take one class, they can ride the bus and come out of the house. They can ride the bus to the school and they can take that one class. If it's in the middle of the day, they would have to come do it when the bus comes.
Right.
You know, and maybe then we'd have to give them a place to do their other virtual classes in the school, and then they can ride the bus back home. I guess what we're saying is, I don't think we would have the ability to say, okay, this one student needs to come in and take band class during fourth period. Let's go pick him up and bring him back. What we would do is say, you want to come and you need that transportation. Yeah, get on the bus. Come on, we'll have somewhere for you to stay, do your other classes.
Mm-hmm.
That class comes, you go to that class. If somebody can pick you up, that's fine. If not, you can wait till the bus leaves in the afternoon, and we'll give them a place to study the rest of the day, and that type of thing. But that would make the most sense.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I can live with that for now. Hopefully, we won't need this a whole lot.
Yeah, I can't wait to show you some data in a little bit. We've got some. We'll show you. We'll show you in a few minutes.
Carl,
the data.
how does the ADM work as far as if a student is part-time with one class or full-time with, 8?
Yes.
Do they still count the same towards the ADM or not?
It does not count the same. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I did contact someone out at the VDOE and asked that specific question, and there was a formula. Do you remember the formula off the top of your head? It's so many classes you get a quarter and a quarter of the percentage of the person.
Their percentages based on how many classes that they take that we would get of that ADM for those individual students.
They don't necessarily break it down real specific. Like it's not like you get an 1/8 and 2/8. But you get like quarter, half, 3/4, so something like that.
So
we are going to get something.
Yes, and we need all something we can get once we show you the data of who might be staying home at some point, when how this is going to be really important for our virtual programs to get real good real fast.
There you go. I've got it for you. So each course shall be counted as a 0.25 up to a cap of a 0.5.
For part-time.
Yeah.
And then of course you get a full one for them.
For half, you get a full.
Right.
So I guess there's no 3/4.
That's good.
Do something like that.
Yeah, that's good. Yep.
Any other questions?
Ms. Cron, are you doing one policy at a time? I know it's 2 policies that are impacted.
We're doing them all at once.
All at once, I think.
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, wait a minute.
I only have 7-2.4.
Right.
Another one in there. I wanted is it 4.2? Am I remembering right? One is more about attendance, and the other is more about assignment to school.
7.7-2.2 is the student attendance one.
Thank you.
Yes, they're both in our
So
document.
it's 2.2 and 2.4.
Right.
Is that right? Yeah.
They're both in our document.
I don't have that.
We need to
We
go.
got 7
At the end.
dash.
It's at the end.
Yeah,
You
we
have
have
to
to
scroll down, like 2 paragraphs.
It's a pretty minor change. It's that statement, I believe, that I had to
have to do them
put in
separately,
where
probably.
it said you had to attend the school where you're aligned with your residential home. And we had to put in unless you want to be in the virtual school, was that line. It was 3 or 4 places.
Okay,
Since I made the motion as policy 7-2.4, maybe I'll make another motion for the other one too, so to be on the safe side. Any other questions regarding the 7-2.4? Since we have a motion and second on the floor, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Now let's make a motion to approve 7-2.2 student attendance.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. Any questions regarding that one? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We approve them both. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. And I still cannot see those things on this iPad, by the way. For some reason, I keep seeing this little yellow Post-it.
Oh, even after I sent it to you again?
Yeah.
That's all that comes up.
Okay, next. Thank you. See, Mr. Krantz, it's the supplement appropriation for the nutrition budget.
What we're proposing here is our revenue has increased from increased participation, which has resulted in an increase in expenditures for food primarily. And so we're proposing to use those revenues to pay for the food and other items that we use to generate those revenue dollars.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
May I have a motion to approve the supplemental appropriation? And I have motion, Ms. Franklin, and second, Ms. Graham. Any questions to Mr. Krantz?
Good thing, folks.
Yes, it
I know,
is.
very good thing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Krantz.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I think Ms. Guest wasn't here, but.
sorry. Yeah. All right, so next, recommended schedule for phase 3 reopening of school. Ms. Whitaker is going to take you through this presentation and give you some information based on our survey from this past weekend. And that was a lot of responses.
A lot of responses. We're really excited to share the data with you. I don't know if the excitement is fear or fear, or, let's move forward. There's a lot of different things in here. So we're excited to tell you kind of what our community shared with us. I think it's a real celebration. We opened this survey on Friday and closed it last night at midnight and had 9,138 of our stakeholders respond to that survey. And what that says to me is, one, our stakeholders are invested and they want to be heard, and that our communication is getting out. So of those survey respondents, 6,200 were parents, 2,013 were students, and 865 were teachers.
Is there any way we can either see that?
You want it up
It's
here?
on your own.
I can do that for you. Yes, ma'am.
Is it too small on the screen? Is that what it is?
No, it's not on my.
On a Chromebook.
It's not on the iPad.
It's on the, it's on the,
It's on the Zoom.
Yeah,
On the
okay.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, but our faces block some.
You got to move your face around.
Move
Yeah.
the faces around.
Get the faces out of the way.
I see a red light.
I feel like it should be great.
Oh, it's good. I'm good here. Yeah, I just didn't know where it was at.
There you go. So that was the response in terms of the number of individuals who were able to respond. They'll go through and give you data broken down by groups and then give you responses as a whole as well. So in terms of our parent, guardian, and student demographics, we first asked what level will the student be in next year? So as you can see, for our parent guardian responses, it was a really, really good split. We had about half from secondary and half from elementary. And then from our student responses, it was open to anybody who would be in middle school up to 12th grade for next year. And so we had about 75% of those respondents were high school students and 25% were middle school students. For our teacher demographics, again, it was a pretty good split right there. 52.49 were elementary, 25 high school, and 22% middle school teachers. And so as a reminder on the 2 survey options that we presented to you last week, option 1 allows students to attend 2 full days each week, and option 2 has students attending school 4 half days each week. So for our groups, parent guardian responses, they chose option 2. It was, about 10%, 11% there between the two, with 55% saying option 2 and 44% saying option 1. And then our teacher responses were pretty close to those, with option 2 being 61%. And doing my simple math here, I'm going to say 39% on the teachers because the faces are over my box over there. I can't read my numbers. When you combine that data together, it shows that our option 2 had a 56% response and option 1 was 43.8%. For our middle school options, again, option 1 was groups 1 and 2 alternated attending classes in person for 1 period a day for 8 consecutive days. And the students are not attending classes in person, they participate in synchronous remote learning. For middle school option 2, group 1 and 2, 50% each. Let me move this little face off here, sorry. 50% of each group will attend 2 periods a day, alternating morning and afternoon sessions every other day. When students are not attending class in person, they participate in synchronous remote learning. So we broke that data down again, but now you've got the 3rd respondent group, which is our students. So for option 1, 33% of parents, 33% of students, and 22% of teachers. For option 2, 66% of parent and guardians, 66% of students, and 77% of our teachers opted for option 2 as well. When you combine that together, option 2 had 67% and option 1 was 32%. For our high school options, again, as a reminder on those options, they're the same as the middle school were. It's that similar schedule there. And so for our respondent groups, parents and guardians, option 2 was 66%, students for option 2 were 71%, teachers for option 2 were 73%, and then and then option 1, again, 33% of parents, 28% of students, and 26% of teachers. You combine those together, 69.2% chose option 1 and 30.8% chose, option 2 and 30% chose option 1. So remember we asked about remote learning, and so we asked that question about, are you interested in participating in a fully online program where students take all coursework online? And we asked it in 2 different ways. Either, are you interested, yes or no? And then if a yes, are you interested up until schools are fully open or even after schools are fully open? And so 68.9% of the respondents were not at all interested, 21% until schools opened. And then so you need to combine that together, right? So then 30% you would say, because if they're interested up until schools and then even after, that would be that total for those school up until, that are interested, and then even after is the 9%. So I'm gonna give you numbers on that so you can know what that looks like. And so are you interested in participating in a fully online program until schools are open? So we had a lot of parents who were interested in that. You can see 866 elementary, 448 middle, and 277 high school students. If they're interested even after, and these numbers are included in that first one, right? Because if they're interested even after, that means they're interested up to. So that 256 in elementary is included in the 866 that were interested just up until we go back to resume our normal operations. 118 middle and 160 high school students.
So it's,
I want to say this is parents only. We did remove the student numbers from this because ultimately the parent will make the enrollment decision. We wanted you to see how the students responded, but ultimately the parent's going to make that final decision of enrollment for their child. And so we wanted you to know what parents had responded there.
So just a quick review before we go any further. We need some discussion here. Is as you can see, the option 2 was the most popular at the elementary, middle, and the secondary schools. And I think it goes back to, from folks I've talked to, parents wanting kids in school every day, at least part of the day. And I think that's that'll be our recommendation, that we go with the option 2s at the 3 levels. And as you can see with the remote learning piece, I'm very happy that you all passed those policies. Even if we are not fully open, you have 866 elementary students who are looking for something remote. That's larger than any of our elementary schools. So, right now, Ms. Wickham, we'll talk about this later too, some committees and some that we're putting together in the next week that we got to get to moving, is a committee for the elementary virtual school. What's that going to look like? Because we have to offer this to these kids. Their families do not want to send them. We're going to need to actually do something. And so, but then too, if you move over to the okay, who's interested after? And we have 160 high school kids here who are going to want possibly the virtual high school option that we just passed. I think that's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. I really do. They like the online learning platform. They'd rather do it that way. And we shared this actually today with Mr. Lewis at Eastmont High School. And he asked us at first, when we first started talking, he said, "It's not going to take me into another sports division." And I said, a few weeks ago, I said, "Nah, it ain't going to happen." Today, I said, "I don't know. We're getting close there, And so, actually, probably, if we really didn't have 160 students who enrolled at Eastmont, it probably take to about the same population as Auburn, which is still a Division I. So. So that's exciting. I'm excited about the work that can happen now. Elementary still 256 even after. I think what's happened is changed education.
Yeah, and some kids
it's forced us to change education and what it looks like, and that's not a bad thing. Pretty much, we've been living in a system that's lasted for about 125, 130 years in how we do things, and I think it's okay that we're looking as to, hey, what do families want? It's going to look different. That's okay. Let's see what we can do to accommodate. And we need these kids in our schools, not just because we want to educate them, but you start calculating that. I'm sure Mr. Krantz already doing calculations. Oh, goodness, if we didn't have this many kids actually, you're talking between $6 to $15 million in ADM we'd lose, which would mean we'd lose staffing. We wouldn't need that many teachers. So we need to accommodate this. And so the next thing we're going to be working on is, okay, who really takes up these options? We're going to send out information it's not a survey anymore. It's going to be, okay, what's your name, what school, what do you want? And then make arrangements for each individual family as to what they want to do in the fall. And at the end of the day, there's a real good possibility there may be some staff changes based on this, because if these kids are not in one of our schools, then there may be some staff changes in terms of several going to a virtual format, and it'd be just a virtual class. I can envision with this many elementary students that it would be a virtual elementary class, and that would be it. There'd be no one else. Okay, and that's going to be different, look different. And it was really interesting. Mr. Pauly shared with me today some teachers, when we surveyed teachers, who almost said, "Hey, I found my thing. I really like this online teaching. I'm pretty good at it."
And we're seeing that with students too.
Yeah, and that's what's happening with students
right.
too. So I think it's meeting our students' needs. And so anyway, I'll open it up to more discussion about any of this, and from the options to this. And
Do you want
to finish?
No, I'm not done yet.
Do you want to finish before they get questions? Any more information?
It's up to them.
Rest first.
Do the rest first? Okay. All right. Cool. It's not a couple of slots.
Yeah, there's not.
Thank you.
So variance, if you remembered, we talked a little bit about, you approved the bus variance, but we've been trying to seek information from the state regarding whether or not, if we're allowed bus variance, are we allowed other variants? And so actually today, the superintendent of education, Dr. Lane, published the form that we would have to fill out to seek variance. And ultimately, the guidance is guidance from the state, and they have stated that the board has the autonomy to make the decisions that they would like to. That guidance is there to guide our decision-making, that they recommend the same as when we spoke about transportation, that we speak to our legislators, and that we speak to our risk management group and to our board attorney, not our legislators, our board attorney, and see whether or not that's something that we do want to do. And so we had polled our parents to see what the interest would be, that if we asked and sought variance, would they want to return their children to school full time? All at one time.
Under mitigation.
Yeah, with mitigation strategies in place, appropriate precautions, but would you be in favor of returning all students, even if the state had not released that, out of phase 3 yet? And so you could see overwhelmingly, it was about 75% responded, yes, we would want to do that. And about 25% said no. And you can see it there within each group. And then the next slide will show you everybody's responses as a whole, 25 and 75 were the responses to that. And so you can go ahead, Brenda. And so for the next step is kind of what does that look like? We'd have to notify the BDOE. We do not seek permission. We notify them in a form that is what we are going to do, and our intent to provide instruction or programming that varies from the phase guidance. It's only required when we exceed the offering. So that's saying, if we're going to send, put more than the number that they have put in their guidance in a classroom, that's when we would.
Remember your audio is live now. We were able to get this machine on first, so I was able to put up this
On the, this is what was on the decision. And so now is everybody reporting? Everybody's
Okay.
Thank you, Doc.
Brenda, can you promote Penny? All right, you send, yep, I think I just took that along.
Make sure to comment that, we suspended the meeting until we got back, because people are thinking I'm getting, we're thinking they're missing something.
It says technical issues. We are.
They think that we're continuing on here while there's technical issues.
Well, no, we did.
Yeah.
Meeting's open.
They're concerned they're missing something.
And you may want to back up a slide or two.
Okay.
When it-
Thank you.
Somebody just said, from the audio is back.
The audio is back on, yeah.
Yes.
That's what I just said.
Well, good.
Audio is back.
Okay, I'll let them cover. I'm sorry. I've got it. I've got that on.
Now they're watching me eat. Now they're watching me eat.
Oh, no. I don't know if they can see it. I think they can just.
They can if you're talking, because if you're talking, you could, well,
They can see you.
It's very
They do.
Ms. Graham is live, Mr. Tabaka is live, Ms. Franklin is live, which is how they're getting audio from me. Dr. Meyer is live.
Ms. Karan is live, looks like.
She is, yes.
Yes.
Would you like to make an announcement
Yes.
to everyone?
We would like everyone to know that, well, we had technical issues. We stopped our meeting, so we will pick it up as we all became alive. It will take only a few more minutes. We'll continue. Thanks. There you go.
You good?
Are we good? We have everybody live now? Okay. Then Dr. Meyer, you can resume.
Okay. Someone may have to remind me where I left off for when we discovered that this was.
You were talking about the other counties possibly using a variance.
Opening up, yeah.
Yeah, they're, in talking to other school divisions around us, superintendents, and what they think their board is in favor of, there are many who may take the variance and use it day one and open up their schools. And so, you know, that would be an option on the table as we get closer to, if you so choose to do so, if we were to receive the variance. We're going to actually, the variance that we will turn in will actually be one that the DOE has actually helped to write. They're actually sending a template to most school divisions in Southwest Virginia to have in it some things they would like to see. And so, but we would like to go ahead and just move forward with that in the time being, as we continue to look at data and continue to have conversations with the health department.
So how long would it take? So do we need to obtain, so we apply for the variance, do we have to get approval or some kind of permission from the state once we have applied for it?
It's a notification process.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we simply notify them of our intent to provide in-person instruction or programming that varies from the guidance, but we're not waiting for an approval from them.
So is there any reason to not just prepare it and keep it in our back pocket? And
that's what we're saying.
Yeah, I think that's what
we're doing.
Prepare and keep it in our back pocket. Absolutely.
But I mean, as opposed to actually turning it in. If we're not going to use it, what's the point of turning it in? I mean, I can see if
Because
there's
of-
a delay or something like that.
Because of a possible delay, if we get it now and get approved, then there would not be a delay in doing it later if you wanted to do
Okay, I
it.
think what you're saying and what Ms. Whitaker's saying, I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing you say that we have to apply for it and obtain it from the state. I'm hearing Ms. Whitaker say that we just notify the state that we're doing it.
Go no- state-
Yep, it's a notification.
We have to apply for the variance to send to them to notify them this is what we are planning to do. And then we just hold it, right?
Correct.
They do not, it's not an approval.
Yeah,
It's
so
not like
there's-
we're going to
there's
get a
no
letter
delay.
back saying
There's-
you're approved.
From the
It
time
is-
that we submit it to the time that we can actually act on it is zero.
But why wouldn't we go ahead and do it if it's not a lot of work and we have it ready in case we need it?
So then my next question is going to be related to liability. I mean, the state's coming out and saying, if you want to take on the liability. So I guess the follow-up to your question, Ms. Graham, is why, you know, wouldn't we be taking on some form of extra liability by notifying whether we use it or not? So why do
Possibly,
that?
you know, that's something that would have to be obviously discussed if we get to the discussion of using it. You know, and that's when I'm talking about the health department, we would probably, again, talk to our attorney, we would talk to VACOR, our risk management folks as well, if we were to actually use the variance.
No, I think you're asking, would we be liable now for something?
No.
So I don't think we would, because we wouldn't be having any action, right? The liability is if somebody were to litigate against us, right? So if we have an open schools and we are under the guidance, we wouldn't be in a place of liability because we'd be staying within the guidance of what's, well, we're always in place, right? Anybody can do what they choose to. But, you know, I mean, in terms of suing us, whatever, but
Yeah.
if we're following the guidelines,
Mhm.
then that liability wouldn't be that increased because we wouldn't be straying from what they were asking. It's when those actions take place that the liability.
I hear you. I guess I just don't, having not talked to our legal counsel about it, I don't see prudence in moving forward with this until it's needed. And it sounds to me like we're months away from needing it. So I guess I don't see the point, but.
Well, needing it.
I don't,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I don't know that we're months away from needing it. You know, you're going to have other school divisions around us who have the same data as we're collecting in terms of how COVID is spreading. And so, I've been told that there's a very good chance that some of these same divisions who have the same number of cases that we do per 100,000, they're going back. And they're going back in full with certain mitigations. And so, and with the data that we received, that we had 75% of our families respond that if we could go back full with mitigations, that they would do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think, with that answer, I think it would be good to have that, to be able to have that discussion as we get closer to school. I personally think it's too early to make a call. Anyway.
Well, it also is, it's just saying that we can then have a variant. It doesn't mean everybody has to go back to school. It means we can then have a variance on maybe how we put people on a bus, or we have variance on, it just opens it up to having something beyond.
More leeway.
Right.
But we have more
So it's
leeway.
not as though by applying for it, that means that that the only way to use it is to send everybody back to school full-time, normal. So
Right.
I don't see any reason not to have it.
I agree.
And it's anything above that recommendation, right? So there is a middle level that could be, say, 75%, or, anything that was determined. It doesn't have to be full, it could be full, but the variance is for anything that is above what that guidance is, any stray from that.
We didn't need a variance for the bus decision.
No. They said we did. I think, and this is just me guessing, I think we sparked a lot of conversation in the questions we were asking in that meeting of what did we need to do? Did we need their approval? How did that look? So this form coming out is a new form. They literally just released this information to us today. So I think they're responding in time to the same things that we're hearing from our community members. It's happening all over the state.
I would suggest we get it, and then, before we start school, talk to health department, talk to attorneys, and see if they recommend that we continue with the plan that you choose tonight, or do something more aggressive,
Or a combination of the
or a
two.
combination of the two. But we have it available.
For me, I would prefer to have that conversation with the attorney before we even notified the state that we're doing it, especially if we're not doing it. And I think once we do notify the state that we're doing it, I think there's a lot of public pressure to, let's just get on with it, and I've seen that in other places, and I think we're seeing, I have concerns about the health side of this too, which I think we haven't talked about very much. And I see Mr. Garrettson's here tonight, so I hope we get a chance to talk about that a little bit more. So.
We've had several conversations with Dr. Bissell. Mr. Garrettson talks to her every single day, actually, and has several conversations, and he'd be glad to share some of those conversations as to where the health department here and she stands on that right now, because we had some conversations about that. Do you want to talk about that real quick, Jason?
As Dr. Meyer said, we've got a very positive relationship with Montgomery County Health Department. Dr. Bissell has been very responsive to us all along. We continue to be a part of the New River Valley Public Health Task Force, which has been meeting every day, although I will say today is our first day that we went to every other day. So now we're on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Certainly in conversations with her, just like when we went to begin to talk about some possibilities with mitigation on the bus, she was very responsive to that. Wanted to have that conversation, helped us even kind of troubleshoot some conversations about some of the younger kids and questions around cloth face masks for younger students. So she has been, and that department has been a very willing partner with us as we begin to answer these questions that most of us never thought we'd ever have to answer before.
Would you? I tell you, it would be good is if she, would you mind if we invited her to our July meeting?
I was going to suggest that. I think that'd be great.
I think she's the expert. So.
Because I have this question. In terms of the timing, I wish the public schools and the colleges will kind of plan the timing, because what's really gonna happen, I hope it won't, but we're gonna start August 13th, and the next week, all the Radford, Virginia Tech is gonna come. So in the 2 weeks time, so by the time we're in the school for a month, I don't wanna be 100% sure on this think that is negative, but there's a big chance that we're gonna see numbers are not holding what they are right now. And then for us, that's a month into the school, however way we decided to start August 13th, then there's gonna be this problem, what we're gonna do now. So I don't know if they are thinking about that or they're hoping about that, because if we can switch the timings a little bit, maybe we can avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is what, because there's a lot of parents asking about this exact thing. I'm personally worried about this exact thing for multiple reasons. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that that the health professionals in this area are having these discussions. So can
All
you,
part of the big team.
Yeah, so can you fill us in on what that thinking is, as far as, you know, having 25, 30,000,
Minimum 30,000 will come.
you know?
I mean, tech is going, you know.
Your question
Later,
is what are health professionals saying when we start to bring back
Are
student populations?
are they considering this, and how are they expecting, how is that affecting how they advise us on when and how we can open?
I think it is a conversation that happens at every meeting. Every meeting we hear from the hospitals as well as representatives from the universities in conversation with the health department as well. And I think, again, myself not being a medical professional, of course, I feel like there is belief that those numbers will have to go up a little bit as we begin to bring back in more people from other parts of the state, other states. I think just pure volume speaks to that. But we have been very blessed in Montgomery County that our hospitals have not been overran. We have had a lot of preventative strategies in place that have kept that resource available to the people who need it most, and even keep it available to the people who are experiencing health concerns that aren't related to COVID. As we began to bring back in, speaking as an observer, not a practitioner, as we began to bring back folks for elective surgeries and procedures like that, that all seems to have ran very smoothly as we bring those people back and testing protocols are in place and people can get the other health treatments they need without fear of COVID, or without, you could sustain an injury and go to the ER without having that department ran with COVID cases. But I do think there is caution out there and concern that when we begin to bring large groups back together, we will likely see some numbers go up.
And I'll have to back up what Mr. Gerritsen is saying about the being proactive. We are far, far, far ahead of even Roanoke as far as the testing we've done, working with Virginia Tech's Biomedical Institute on being able to process our lab results, starting to go into that antibody antigen type of test that would give us a more conclusive idea of whether somebody was exposed or they're currently asymptomatic. And I think we're pretty close on that. I think our contact tracing is stellar. I mean, they can narrow it down very quickly to the source and contain that within just a day or two, which is going to make a huge difference in how quickly it's spread.
Who's doing contact tracing in this area?
The health department.
So if I go in and I test positive,
They'll contact trace you.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, as best as
Everybody
they
that you've been
can,
around.
right? I mean, it's not like we're not running apps on our phone that do that level. You know, we're not doing what
No.
countries have done, right? So.
No. And this is all information that I've received from members of the Public Health Task Force. I'm grateful that we're positioned so well that even if we do go with the full opening, although I still feel a little hesitant, that I feel like we have the support system in place to handle any outbreaks that come very quickly. and contain them.
Yeah, my counter argument to that is they did not see any crowd since March because they sent the kids away. So we really didn't have students hanging around in this time frame from March to June. So that's probably why that we don't have a lot of numbers high either. I mean, I'm just, because the
Certainly,
students-
it's population related.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
And, we're continuing, the task force is continuing to expand their testing and, because lots of counties wanted to be a part of the task force because they were doing such an amazing job. And so, we have to look at things like Mr. Garrettson said, as far as, hospital availability, are hospitalizations increasing? Are our deaths increasing? Versus are our positive cases increasing? Because as people start to branch out and go on vacation and come back, we could see an increase in the positive cases. But if our hospitalizations are manageable, then that's what we have to really focus on.
Well, I don't know that I would like to necessarily always focus on how many people we have in the hospital. I would rather focus on how many people are sick, because that's a huge piece there. Just because you're not in the hospital does not mean that you're going through some serious stuff, especially when it comes to our children whose systems just may not be able to fight things like adults can. But with this thing, it's been all over the place. I do have some concerns about us going back on the 13th. I do. I think it's kind of pushing things a little fast, especially when we're going to have both of these universities coming back in with all these people from all over the place. And I would be in favor of pushing things back as far as the start of school. I'm not sure what the urgency is of pushing things to be open on the 13th.
I disagree. I mentioned that to you yesterday. Is there any way that we can postpone? I mean, some people have talked about, can't we just start after Labor Day? And I realize that that puts us in a bind as far as getting everything done in, first semester work done by the end of December. But I don't know. I just,
And I would
late gives us more of an opportunity to plan.
Right. Let me tell you why I don't think it's a good idea to wait. And that is, I know Roanoke City Schools is moving their start date back a week earlier. And the reason is because of the possibilities of a second surge in that December, January timeframe. And that if we were to hold it off even further, then we would
lose instruction time.
Lose instruction by not starting earlier.
Right.
So a lot of school divisions are actually moving it to an earlier start time to be able to get more instruction in case we have that second wave and that surge in December and January.
Right.
Now what I could see is a possibility of starting second semester later if that were to happen. And holding off second semester.
Sure. But now when our numbers are low, it's time to get the kids in there and get instruction going.
Because they're going to go up.
Now the numbers go up, and then we shut things down.
They go up is, I think we've created a schedule that is flexible, that can move from a phase 1 or back to a phase 2, back to a phase 3 to a full opening. I think we have a really, with the option 2, we go with that. It creates a really good situation in terms of our schedules and being able to do that.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because that's
we need to, because I need y'all to approve an option for education in the fall, if we would.
so. So I asked this question, I think, at the June 9th meeting last week. And I asked Carl again when I talked to him later. And as I understand it, and I'm not sure if parents fully understand this, I've gotten lots of questions about it. But any child or any parent can choose to have their child attend 100% virtually.
Correct.
At their home school, if you will.
Correct.
Until while we're in this
COVID
phase.
Exactly.
So I think that's something important
It
to
is.
communicate to people. So one question I had, and somebody actually brought this up, and I talked to my wife about it because she has done quite a bit of online teaching at Tech, and this whole idea of synchronous teaching, meaning when you're in the classroom as a teacher, are you teaching the kids that are physically in the classroom, and synchronous meaning at the same time you're also teaching kids that are zooming in virtually, or are you just being recorded and then the virtual piece is just available online for kids to watch whenever they want?
So
do we have that yet?
So our plan for that is to ask teachers, plain and simple. I can see, especially your early grades, younger kids, teachers just saying, no to that. I'll teach who's in front of me, who comes, and maybe assign additional work in Google Classroom. Okay. As you move up, I look at it being a teacher choice. A lot of teachers will figure out a way to do synchronous types of instruction with those in front and those on the screen. Some activities may not allow that. And so we're not going to tell teachers you have to do synchronous instruction with kids in front of you and on the screen. All right, because the lesson may not lend itself to that. They could start grouping kids certain ways, but we're going to let teachers figure that out. It's going to be up to them. We're not going to mandate that you teach kids on the screen and the one sitting in front of you.
Yeah.
I think it could vary from day to day for a teacher. It could vary from subject to subject. There's so many variables there because of all the different subjects. Where I could see that would be difficult. So, as our next steps, which are we at that?
She was Brenda was gonna share the thought exchange data so they could see all the responses and then.
The next
Steps is one of our committees. We need to get our instructional committee bringing teachers in at the different levels to figure it out and try to figure out some guidelines for teachers. I don't think we could say every teacher's going to do synchronous while the kids are in front of them and then some are online. I think it has to be, I think that has to be a little bit of both maybe, or dependent upon the classroom. And
I wonder too, so again, like I said, I asked some people that I know about this, and one of the things that I got as a response that would take money and perhaps a significant amount of money, is that you can do that when you have somebody helping in the classroom. If you have somebody who's, let's say, an assistant to the teacher who's managing the online communication, for example, right? Something like that. So maybe something to think about as, I don't, as we go through this phase, I don't know if there will be any head count that we may require less of, whether it's, in-person aides or substitute teachers or something like that, where any of that can be shifted. I don't know, but
And I think I'm sorry.
I think you also have to realize for teachers that their lesson plans are all created to have students in front of them. That's what they've put together, that's what they've had, and that's what they're using. And so now we're asking them to put everything, and it's been a lot of teachers have expressed to me how stressful it was doing online teaching. And I think for some teachers, they're not as technology savvy as others. And for some of them, they're really struggling, and it's been an extremely stressful experience. And they're taking classes this summer to try to learn more so that they can be more efficient, but it's a lot. And so I think you need to be able to offer options, because I don't think all teachers, as you said, Dr. Meyer, their lesson plans aren't necessarily conducive to that, but also you're asking to recreate everything they created over time, and to just something for several months, we don't know even, and so I think that's putting a lot of pressure on staff.
I know we're giving the Wednesday day, proposing the Wednesday as a planning day for teachers, but that's not even going to be enough with this type of shift. I mean, it's going to take a lot of time. So that's why I want to leave it up to teachers to see what will best fit them. One thing that we're going to be looking at for, and talking to teachers about are big idea concepts and how they teach those. Instruction needs to look different. What content needs to look different. And the realization, a lot of teachers will have a hard time coming to the realization that I can't get anything in that I usually would. But just making sure that I'm looking at curriculum, big ideas, big concepts. What does the next grade need to know for that kid coming up, and making those adjustments. But I have trust in our teachers. They're we have great teachers who care about kids and they know instruction, and they know pedagogy enough to make these adjustments. And I don't feel like I could tell a chemistry teacher, you need to do it this way, and everybody's going to do it this way. What I do want to say is, chemistry teacher, get with a few other chemistry teachers, let's bring them together. How's it going to look? So we do have consistency across the division.
And one thought I've had that is related to the schedule, right? I want to make sure that we empower our teachers to also, not just to have the freedom to do some things, but also to have the time and space to do that. And one of the ideas I've thrown around is, with a lot of this learning happening virtually, instead of, we've had wonderful teachers at Harding Elementary, for example, you got 3 4th grade teachers that work together, right? But in a model like this, 4th grade teachers from across the county can work together. And if you're creating an online lesson, do 4 or 5 different teachers need to be doing that lesson at once? Could we, you know what I'm saying? So from a schedule point of view, but I don't want to dictate that to anybody, but I want to make sure that we, that our schedule allows teachers to do that kind of a thing where they can help each other out and where we can get that time in that way.
And we're already organized for that. We are already in a situation where we bring in grade levels, which from every school every year anyway. So they're used to those types of meetings. And those are the things that need to happen over the next several weeks, is they need to continue to meet so that not every teacher from every single school is reinventing the wheel for this, that they can work together on it and collaborate, which is so important. But,
just to add on to that, Dr. Meyer, there's also a lot of online options that do cost some money, and maybe we can make something available to teachers, like Teachers Pay Teachers and some of those other online sources for lesson plans, and that just help give teachers more resources in creating those kinds of lesson plans. If we were able to have at least something, make it available to them, it'd be helpful.
Well, we just found out a few weeks ago, and I think this is something that will be good, is that Virtual Virginia has opened up their platform to us, to all schools, where it will not cost money. Even if you don't have a student who is enrolled in Virtual Virginia, the teacher can go in and actually use the resources that are in Virtual Virginia, which is really nice. There's already made lessons for all courses already there. I can envision, I think about it too. If I were in the classroom and I was still in the classroom teaching, how would I do it? I like the flipped classroom model, where you basically do your lecture and they listen to your lecture at home, and then when they get to the class, they do the stuff where they get the hands dirty, and we have a lot of teachers who do that already.
Yeah.
And so, but they'll have one group in the morning, one group in the afternoon, and who says that when you've got a group in front of you and a group on the computer, that you tell that group on the computer, okay, get in your Google Classroom, get your assignments done, see you tomorrow when you get here, and then work with the ones that are right there in front of you, because and I know that I think the face-to-face is the most effective.
Absolutely.
Teachers. So.
And all of those things we will continue to work on, because we have to submit a plan to the state that's going to address how are we doing these things and what does that look like. Right now, we've really been working on that big picture piece, and then what that scheduling option is. We've got a lot of folks that have work to get done in terms of what does that look like, so we can specifically address more questions that we're getting from our community. But there'll be a full plan that we have to bring to you all first. That's one of the main reasons we would like to ask that meeting in July, because we need to bring the plan, the health plan and the instructional plan to you all, so that we can submit them. But that will have a lot of details in it, and there's a lot you'll see coming up. We've got a lot of people who we need to get their input and figure out what does it look like, and how can we best provide autonomy but consistency for our families as well. So we wanted to share with you the thought exchange. This is what Dr. Meyer spoke a little bit about in the beginning, and so we just wanted to give you a brief look of what this looks like. It is a really exciting tool that Ms. Drake found. And what it does is it allows users, usually we're surveying and we're asking the questions that we want the answers to. And sometimes we don't ask the questions that people want us to ask. And so what this does is allows for an open forum. So an individual shares their thought or their concern, and then others respond and are able to engage with the other stakeholders' feelings. And so they'll like something or they'll rank it and say how important that is to them. And then we're able to take that information and do some data analytics. And so we'll show you an example here of how we can see, people having polar views, let's say on, yes, let's return to school 100%, and the other side saying, no, we don't want to return to school. And then we can also see the commonalities between the people with the groups with the different views. So we'll show you a sample here. If you go.
Go back, we lost something else.
Those three comments.
The dashboard.
I'm not seeing the comments anymore.
You're saying,
No,
it's okay. She already went ahead and transferred over. I can go back to those in a minute because she had to switch to another platform.
Oh.
What she's going to do now is
I
dig
see.
in the data and show it to you. And we can. I was just showing you the top 3 trending right now, but we can go back to those.
Sorry.
She's going to dig in and show you a little bit about what I was just speaking of.
So we ran our Survey Monkey and our Thought Exchange simultaneously. The Survey Monkey was designed to provide specific data decision points about a very specific topic. And the Thought Exchange is designed to give people, in this case parents, a voice. Especially right now, it's a very difficult time. So this is our first Thought Exchange. And the most important thing to know is this isn't a survey. This is a conversation. And when you look at this screen, you can see that we've currently got more than 1,400 people participating in this conversation, which is great. And I think that we're going to continue to see these numbers to grow as we utilize the platform throughout the year for additional questions and additional thoughts. So you can see that we have about half of our participants who've shared their thoughts. We have a little more than half who have rated thoughts, but almost 70% have gone all the way through the Thought Exchange into the point of exploring thoughts and really looking at them in depth. And this is a really great number and really great engagement. I last ran these numbers a few hours ago, and the numbers have increased. So my numbers might be a little off when I talk about percentages. But right now, or a few hours ago, we were averaging 40 thoughts rated per person. So when I spoke with Thought Exchange today and we were going over just the initial data, they were giving me a surface level view. We'll do more training later. They said that more than 40 thoughts rated per person is their highest level of engagement. And so this is a successful Thought Exchange in that our participants really care about the question that we're asking, and they really care about the thoughts that are being shared. So we have some general survey questions that we asked people to complete just right before they got to the Thought Exchange component. We asked what their role was with the district, and this majority parent percentage is expected because we're running a different Thought Exchange for our teachers, and that one's currently in process. And then we also asked how well informed our audience felt about the district's response to COVID-19. And you can see that we did really well in this area, and that the people who participated in this survey felt that our communication was successful. They felt informed. And then last, we asked, how would you rate the remote learning experience that we provided for our students at the end of the 1920 school year? And I think here, these are really key numbers here, where 35% said it was a struggle, and 39% said there was a steep learning curve, but we managed. I think you're going to see that number there, those statistics there, reflected as we go and look deeper into the thoughts. So first I'm going to show you, I'm not going to go through all of these different pieces, but I am going to show you the heat map. And I want you to remember that the Thought Exchange is designed to hear from parents about what we need to consider from them as we move forward with our decision points. So as the different teams are meeting, as the leadership teams are meeting, what are parents saying? What are their thoughts that we need to consider moving forward? And so this heat map At the top, it shows you the bar. So a low score is kind of yellow, and a high score is sort of that darker brown or maroon color. And you can see here, we're looking at the themes and how they responded and how they ranked based on how they answered the question, how successful was fourth quarter last year? So for people who said it went really well, their biggest concern coming back is safety. That is their biggest concern. That's where the biggest heat map is for them. And for those who said there was a steep learning curve, but we managed, you can see scheduling really was the hot spot there, but we have a wide variety of areas of concern. And this data isn't perfect. So we need to remember that this thought exchange has been running since Friday, and we haven't cleaned up the data. There's a process that you go through with thought exchange where they look at your themes, and sometimes keywords aren't pulled together that should be, and that type of thing. But we wanted to give you some surface level knowledge. And then for our group who said, you know, that fourth quarter was really a struggle, their biggest thing was working parents. And then we come down and we see schedule, we see remote learning, we see social interaction down here at the bottom. So, and then we see, of course, working parents, mental health and safety. Those were the big concerns for people who said they just weren't sure. They couldn't really answer how did the fourth quarter go. And so the thought exchange, it allows us to understand what people think, and it just helps us as we continue our planning. So the second aspect of the dashboard, the one that Annie alluded to earlier, the differences tab. And what we all know, and we've heard it in our discussion here tonight, is that this is a messy and a challenging time. And we're going to see that here. So in this data, we see very different and opposing points of view. The differences tab is designed to look at the thoughts that created the highest level of disagreement. And then they take those thoughts and pull out the polarity and create sides. So you can see that side A is blue. And it's on the left-hand side. You can see that it's got 193 participants in that side. And you can see the thoughts that they ranked really highly. On side B, you can see that blue number are the thoughts that they ranked really low. And so the same thing with side B in the green. You'll see on the right-hand side where they ranked certain thoughts really high, also in the green. And on the left-hand side on side A, you'll see where they ranked really low. And that's just showing you the polarity. It's showing you how those sides were created and the differences there. Earlier today, the split was almost 50-50. You can see that we've got a little more in side A today, but that's really interesting as well because it shows where our community is. It shows that people are still unsure and that there isn't a lot of consensus. But where we do have consensus is right here in the middle, and that's this, these are common. We're going to go through some high themes, then we're going to go through some low themes. So both sides are concerned about student learning outcomes. Both sides are thankful for the administration and the work that this school division and the school board has done already. We have both sides talking about how their teachers were responding and some needs that were there, and then some more expressions of gratitude. So those are some common themes that no matter which side of this difference you're on, those are your common themes. And then when we scroll down just a little bit more, we can see things that were commonly ranked low. So these were might be items that if they were brought up at the leadership team and we saw this, we would say, well, this isn't an item that's super important to our parents right now. So let's look at some of the other things that are. It's designed to really help guide the conversation and the planning and the decision making. The purpose is to understand the different points of view so that we can build a plan on where our groups would be. So we're going to get more training on how to dive deeper into this data, but we wanted to show you the surface of this level. We wanted to show you the type of information that we're trying to get from our community so that as we move forward, we can find those areas of common ground. The intention of this tool is to be a conversation, is to give a voice. And we have plans to continue using it moving forward.
I'm excited about it. I think this is so much better than so many different things that we have been exposed to. We have one for teachers, basically the same question. It's out right now.
It is. It's how we
And-
can prepare them, how we can help prepare them for this next school.
So that's their question. And then with the third one went out today on equity. What was the equity question that goes to this website here?
I bet Ms. Graham can answer it because she's got it on a business card. I am not remembering it right away. I'm so sorry. I don't want to misrepresent the question. Yes, that is the question.
I mean, what are your thoughts and questions about what we should do to overcome racism in our school community? So that's the question that everyone will be answering.
Yeah, I
on that
ran out
side
of my
as they go
cards,
through
so
this,
I don't have any.
Here.
You see?
I have a couple questions. And it's about the actual taking the test, and so you're talking about separate than what Annie's talking about, right?
It is. They were meant to run concurrent.
Okay.
Yeah, the data here was the survey and then this is, yep.
Question on the survey, Annie. Was there the possibility of being able to take the survey twice?
Yes.
Was there any feature that locked anybody out of the survey?
No.
Because I've heard from a couple of people that there were students who loaded the survey.
Students could load the survey.
No, I meant they went in and took it over and over and over again.
So we do that
I'm
on.
just saying that we don't know how accurate the data is.
Well, so that's why we showed you students,
They
parents.
could have said they were a parent. They could
Oh,
have
sure,
said.
anytime they can.
So really, anybody could have
Yeah.
gone in there and said they were anybody and
Sure.
said anything.
Sure. But we do leave it open because they have multiple children. So if they had elementary, middle, and high, they needed to respond 3 times for each of those groups because they might feel different about their elementary school student, which we see from the responses. There was a high number of elementary who were interested in the at-home than they do for their secondary. With any survey, we don't require an identification code or something like that that goes to them. It is open, so I think anytime, they could do that. But the goal is to get the feedback from the community.
I mean, in the end, we had 9,000 responses, right? So that's,
Yeah. It's hard to game that.
it's hard to gain that many responses. I mean, yeah,
And then from here,
okay.
From here, what I had shared with you was the time that we captured this, what the top 3 were. And so the top 3 were 1, and see that ranked 1, 14, 64, 2, and 3. The top 3 were safety. Again, that thankfulness for the administration and for all of the work of the board and the individuals who are working on these difficult schedules. And then number 3 was standardizing the use of Google Classroom, that they wanted it to be more consistent so that a parent with multiple kids was able to interact with their children in a more consistent manner. So we've actually got in the next slide for you some things that we're going to do in response to what we learned very quickly. And so our steps moving forward with that are going to be, well, let me go to the, I'm going to start on the third bullet just because it kind of connects better, I'm sorry, is the return to school task force. And so as you know, the elementary and secondary committees are continuing to work. Once you vote on the schedule for us, that is really the piece we need to know how to continue to move forward with our planning. Then we're going to have distance learning committees for elementary and secondary so that they can specifically look at what does that look like for those folks who will be 100% online as well as, when we are in some type of hybrid schedule. We're going to form our own return to schools health task force. Safety we get so many questions about what does mask looks like? How are you going to do hand washing? What are the safety procedures going to be? And so we decided today that we need to bring a group of people together to help us solve those problems and bring their inputs to the table. And then the return to school equity review, which is in the guidance document that the state sent out. I had emailed just a link for you all so that you would have that from the BDOE. And it is available for anybody to view on that website. But the first thing after all of their titles and saying who is on these committees is the equity audit. And so what we are going to do is have our plans that we bring to you. Both the equity group will need to talk to the subcommittee so that they can share with them kind of what that looks like within the book. But then they're going to look at our plans and look at it through that equity lens. That's obviously a priority to us as well as the state because they put it at the very front of everything that they were doing. So those task forces will work together. One note with that equity group is because our summer plans have to say, they tell us, yes, you can start sports back, but you can have no contact. And, you know, say marching band, you could do your marching within 6 feet of each other, but you need these mitigation rules. In order to get that in place, it's non-instructional, it would be summer, we submit the health plan to the state and would move forward. We wouldn't bring that whole plan through the equity committee so that we could move forward with the summer components. But any of the instructional or anything once school starts would go through that lens. And then I'll go back to the top. The other things that we want to look at is adjusting the calendar if that is the board's desire for us to do that and bring it to you for a vote. Some of the things that we would look at is removing early dismissals, removing teacher work days as we have those Wednesdays in place for teacher work days. Would we need to look at removing that fall break? So looking at any calendar adjustments that you would want us to bring for a vote. We really want to do an in-depth analysis of that thought exchange. You know, it just closed today, so what we gave you today was a surface view. But what we want to look for, what are things we're not thinking about that our community is? Because if we're seeing that it is very important to them, then we need to have a response and we need to be able to communicate with them on that.
And we're going to get the information in the thought exchange to the board members so they can read through as well.
Yeah, Brenda and I were speaking today. We're not exactly sure. Again, it's so new, what that looks like, but we're going to figure it out and get it to you.
Y'all can read
I
through.
just went in there and start, I mean, you can just go in there and look through it, right?
You can get, yes, you can get in and look at the post anytime, but the data analysis that Brenda was showing you, we need to provide that for you as well. And so it's just so new to us. We got to figure out what, is that a PDF export or do we go in and screen capture and take the things out for you? But we will get that for
And then
you.
hopefully we can pull certain comments, like for instance, Judy, you're going to be leading the equity task force. And so pulling comments in terms that might relate to that.
Yes.
Jason's, I might be just assigning them right now.
Yes. No,
They figured Jason would be
They got a text earlier
health
today.
task force, and he would pull information there. And of course, Carl and Barbara will be doing the elementary and secondary and the distance learning pieces as well. So hopefully we can break that information down to get to the correct committee too. Make sure we get all that input evaluated.
Right. And we'll talk too about the formation. You know, I think that, you know, that the health committee isn't formed yet, but it's good to see who might be interested in being on it. We can't have everybody who would want, but perhaps we can set a standard of how many parents, how many community members, and then do a random polling from them so that our stakeholders have an opportunity to sign up to be on that committee if they're interested in it.
We're going to put something in there to allow folks to sign up for
Yeah.
committees if they're interested, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Very good.
And so our next step, well, hopefully you're going to vote in just a minute, but after that is us requesting a meeting for July 21st. There's just so much work to get done any sooner, and I don't know how much we can get to you before then, because we have all of these groups that need to come together and really develop these plans. But at that date, what we would do is bring the plans to you, the health plan and the instructional plan. Again, instructional goes to this Virginia Department of Ed, and the health plan goes to the health commissioner. And so we would bring those to you for your review and approval, and it's really only 2 days. We must have them in by July 23rd. We have to have 15 business days before the start of our school year. And so that cuts that time frame very closely. But again, there's a lot of work to do within the next 4 weeks for us to be able to bring a really good plan that lays out all the details and can answer all the questions for you.
But tonight you would like us, I'm sorry, you'd like us to vote on the options, all right? Is that what?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a question that somewhat with what we've just gone over, but also with our survey piece with that. So can we ask for race or identifiers so we can see who is responding in proportion to our population, and how we can see what's important, what those comments are, and reach out to folks to be a part of the conversation and participate in committees.
You know, if that is what the direction of the board would be, to ask those questions.
Joanne.
We typically,
What question?
The demographics of who's responding.
I mean, I don't know legally that we could not. I think typically we don't just because we don't want people to feel singled out, but if the goal is to identify, and that is, how we wanted to respond to it.
So what you're saying, Ms. Franklin, is that when we solicit for volunteers for these committees, we ask them identifying questions a little more
No,
specific?
anytime we send a survey out,
Oh, and I thought you meant just the one on.
no, that we're getting that piece of information so we know who we are reaching, if we need to do something different to make sure we're reaching the population.
I think a better, is to get their name so that then they don't feel targeted, right? Like if we said, give us your name, and then we have the information of, we have internally already that information.
Maybe hard.
Then it loses its
Information.
What if we made it
Yeah.
optional? Probably if you made it
Still have certain
optional. it would-
I
information.
just want to know what people's race is for the biggest part,
Right.
okay? So that we can see proportionately to our population.
Who's responding?
Who's responding, and if we need to do something different to make sure we're getting everybody.
I think if it's optional, but that doesn't put us in a legal situation of people feeling, but I think we can frame everything with a question to explain why. Here's why we're asking, right? And I think when people understand why you want to know something, that makes a whole difference.
Okay, so ready? We're ready for
Sure.
a motion?
Motion to approve,
The recommended option of
yeah,
two?
that's the wording. We have a motion to recommend an action, which option we would like to go with the school scheduling, 2021.
And the recommendation was option two. So we need to vote on if we approve the option, the recommendation.
Yes, ma'am.
So moved.
I make,
You need a-
second.
At the elementary, middle, and high school level?
They are all,
Yes.
yeah.
Unless someone wants to split it out for some reason.
So this is for option two for all
Levels.
schools, yeah.
Okay, so, discussion.
Discussion.
So my concern is having to start on the 13th. I just think that may be a little too soon with the way things are changing and how fast things can change once Bradford and Virginia Tech come back. I just think we could push it back and it would be okay. I'm going to vote yes because we need to start moving and doing something, but I just don't think we need to go as quickly as we are as far as opening on the 13th.
So I think I see a little bit eye to eye with Ms. Franklin on this one. I'm concerned, but I see that starting sooner, I'm not sure. I think Virginia Tech is starting, I think something on the 20-something, are they not?
It's the Monday, it's the 20.
So in some ways, starting on the 13th gets us in there before that wave comes. And there was, I don't know if I sent it out to you guys, there was a good article in Ed Week about the different options. I think maybe I sent it out to Barbara and Carl, and we talked about some of the options there. But I thought it was a really well-written article and something that is worth reading. But one of the things that, one of the strategies was in doing something that was more graduated is that it gave the community more confidence if things are going well. So what I like about this plan, and I'll be voting yes, is that it gives us a lot of people a lot of flexibility. If you are in a household where you have somebody who's at high risk, or you just don't feel comfortable sending your kids that early, or maybe not be that much that early, you can kind of dial that in. As we get closer, I trust the team, and Mr. Garrettson, you've been working with the health officials and stuff, and certainly from a curriculum point of view and what the teachers feel comfortable with. If you guys choose to do a softer opening, or even do a harder opening the first week so that everybody gets some face-to-face time with their brand new teachers who they've never met, and then dial it back or something. I mean, I'm fine with any of that. I like that we have the options. I do have the same concerns that Ms. Franklin does, but I think some of that is going to depend on what's happening on the ground. Now, I will say that, what we know about this virus is that if you've got a problem, if your numbers are spiking and you've got a problem in the hospitals, it's almost too late, right? So I think that informs a lot of other parents, I think, concerns and my concerns. But, there is a balance here that I think we're trying to strike. So I get that too. So.
Any other comments?
I've said a few times that I'm rushing back. Do we really need to rush back on the 13th? And by the way, tech starts on the 24th. That's their start date.
Okay. Yeah.
I wish we had the option to start a little bit later. On the other hand, probably a lot of people are anxious to get back to school, so I realize that too. I don't love any of the options, but it's all we've got to work with. So, I mean, I know that there's positives and negatives for everyone. I think what's really important, and what I've heard from people, parents, teachers, is what we plan to do to mitigate and what we're going to do as far as recognizing health and safety concerns for teachers and for students. And I think that that's got to be the primary focus is that.
And that's what Mr. Garrison's committee is going to be focused on. That's the next question that we have to answer, and that's what we're seeing that we need to answer. And so we're going to be working
I know
on that.
everyone knows that, but I think people need to hear that. But that is what that we as a school division, that we take that very seriously, and that's really of utmost importance.
And anybody who wants to participate in Mr. Garrison's committee, please give him a call. If there's space, we will definitely welcome it.
And if I'm not out of place here for the board, I mean, certainly there is risk in returning to school. Mm-hmm. And I think we've seen some of the instruments. This is a very personal matter to a lot of families. And what works well for one family might not work for another. And we are balancing the health needs, the academic needs, the economic needs of our community, and even the mental health needs. So it's a big task you as a board and us as your leadership team take on when we try to weigh risks in a situation unlike anything we've ever faced before. And we cannot tell you today what August 13th holds. We can't really tell you what tomorrow holds. So every decision we make is heavy and important. And I do appreciate that our communities see that and understand that. And a lot of the comments they give back to us. So I put that forward for the group. That is what we continue to see over and over and over in all of these discussions.
Good summary. Yeah, good summary. Ultimately, nobody knows. I'll try to do best to move on. So any further, if you don't have any more questions, maybe we can have a roll call.
Can we make it clear what we're voting? I just want to make sure I 100% understand what we're voting on.
Option 2 for both elementary and secondary.
Okay, just want to make sure
the recommendation and the majority of parents, teachers, and students.
Okay.
And for both elementary and secondary schools.
Okay.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Karam?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Let's see where we are. Next item is our unfinished business, board members. Are there any matters of unfinished business? I know if you wanted to say something, and you can do that either on unfinished business, or you can do it as announcement information, however you choose. I think that both would be okay.
Yeah, so I guess we didn't have the board reports, but there's definitely been, 10 things on my mind, and about 7 or 8 of them are, related to the events of last week with, with the Black Lives Matters movement and everything that's come up from that, from our meeting. I want to say that I think it was about a year and a half ago, when we were approached by by Virginia Organizing, asking for us to to make a statement in support of something that we were already doing. And I think that we kind of dithered about that and came up with other things. So, well, people just don't know what we're doing, and so now we're going to publicize this and we're going to do that. And we went like all the way around and did all this other stuff, and it just created more of a controversy where there really shouldn't have been a controversy. And it's disappointing to see that has essentially happened again. I apologize to our community and to the Black folks in our community for that, because that certainly wasn't the intent. For me, I was away last week. I was happy when I saw that you guys had put the resolution on, because as I said last week, I think it's important that we take a stand and that we say something at this moment in our nation's history. We're a public organization and people look to us, and I think that that's important. I've been doing a lot of reading, and one of the articles that I read was by a guy from Philadelphia named Trey Johnson, and he wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post that I thought was really good, and the title was "When Black People Are in Pain, White People Just Join Book Clubs." And then he took me to task for, and all of us for, we read about it and then post these things on social media and whatnot. But the point of his article was, we're beyond time for talking about this, and it's time to do something, and it's time for action. And I think that, again, not to, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, because like Dr. Meyer said, we have a lot of work to do, but I think that we have been doing things. And I think that's what's disappointing about both of these situations, is that we're good, or we're better anyway, let's put it that way. We're better at actually doing the things that we need to be doing in this area than we are about communicating it, or just saying the simple things that people want us to say, or that want to hear from us. I'm thinking it already. And so, to my constituents and to our community, absolutely Black Lives Matter. I mean, that's not a hard thing to say. I'm happy that the letter that we sent out originally, had George Floyd's name on it. This is, I think I deferred because I was away. This is maybe where I messed up, and I'm sorry. Some people accused us of, a milk toast, response. And in some ways, after a whole week, it kind of was, and George Floyd was murdered, and he wasn't the first, and probably won't be the last, unfortunately. And I think what's happening in our community is that people are, well, I would say white people are seeing this institutional racism in organizations that they love, and now they're looking at us and saying, where's your institutional racism, and what are you doing about getting it out of our schools? And it's absolutely the right thing and the right reaction for people to have. And we have been doing some work, but it's not necessarily the time to be taking a victory lap about what we've been doing. I hear everyone. I want to reaffirm that we are committed to making the changes that we need to do, and that education is an important piece of a lot of the, how do we bridge that inequity? Like the gentleman said outside, 167 years or whatever. I can't remember the exact numbers. A lot of years, for me, I look at our role and I say education is a big piece of that. And so, I hope that we do that work together. But I also I hope that we have conversations within the board that, so that this doesn't happen again. I think we're better than at least what we've been made to look like and what we've looked like in the last week. And I'm, you know, I'm not happy about that. But we will be better, and I'm willing to do my part too. So
I'd like to tag on that because you said a very important part here, and that is actions speak louder than words. Certainly, we can approve a resolution. We can say, you know, that Black Lives Matter and we're going to do better. But I disagree with you on the victory lap part. I don't want to call it a victory lap, but I think we're already doing so many awesome things for our students. Can we do better? Absolutely. We can do better in everything. We're not perfect, but we've made some great strides, and we've opened up some conversation. I'm really grateful about this new platform that we have, that we can have even more conversations, and we can see, you know, what things we might be missing in what we've already got in place. You know, our job is to ensure that all of our students, including our minority students, are academically successful, they have a safe place to learn, and that we're also addressing their mental health needs. And the more we learn from our community of what we might be missing in doing that job, will help us grow even better. We want to do what's best for all of our kids. And we are concentrating on our minority students, our special ed students, because we see that you know, we are missing giving them our full attention, and we're working on those things. So it's important for people to know what we are doing and our great diversity hiring and the great teachers we're getting because of that, and administrators. And I think it's important for us to say what we're doing that's great, and that we know we need to grow from that.
Can I respond to that, though? Because you responded to me and you disagreed with me, and I just want to make sure that people understand. And I don't think anything you said was necessarily bad, but I think it's important to also state where we stand. And I think that's what we missed last week, you know, and I think it is important. The things that we're doing are important, but this is not the time for that. This is the time for telling people where we stand on this. And I think that's why that's why some of the language around this is important to the people that are involved, because for so many years, you know, I think people have kind of dithered around that language, maybe to avoid having to do anything. And I don't think that's what we're about. We're doing the hard, or at least we're trying to do the hard part anyway. So why not do the easy part and just, you know, say what we're doing? So that's, you know, that I just want to be sure that I do think it's important that we say the right things, and in addition to doing the following that up. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Cass.
I'm not sure what I want to say now. I was very unhappy after the last meeting, and I was unhappy with myself for not speaking up. I was unhappy that I didn't just come out and say Black Lives Matter and this is terrible what's happening, and I can't believe that we haven't said anything for the last 2 weeks. But I also balance that with the fact that, and I know this sounds like an excuse, and I even said this today and publicly, that it was a very confusing moment, and part of it, I think, as a board, we need to talk about how we manage our distribution of information. But I apologize that I didn't do more. I wish I had said more. I wish I had said something. I think, as I've taught for 11 years, and now I'm on the school board, and I've always been 100% supporter of social justice and involved in social justice, and it's just really very difficult to hear some of the comments that people have made, but you know what? They have made them and they're not wrong. So you know what? They're right. Could I do better? Absolutely. Could we all do better? Absolutely. Have if I said wrong things or done wrong things, yeah, it's just, I think what it does is it makes you really think about how you've led your life. And I have to say that this has been for me a really, really difficult time. Because maybe it makes you face your faults and makes it hard to face your faults and accept those and admit it to people. But I know that in my heart, I want to be very supportive. I thought, I looked outside today and I recognized so many of those kids, the kids that I taught. And I'm really proud of all of them for being here today. I think that's amazing that they've done that and that they put that together. And those are the people we need to be reaching out to, because they are the future and they're the ones who really know things. And those are the people we need to be talking to, because they are smart kids with a whole lot of great ideas. And some of us have been around maybe a little too long, and we think we know things, but we don't. So I hope we continue to reach out to our students and to our community and our parents and our teachers, and continue to get feedback from them, because those are the people who are out there on the front lines, and they know what's going on. And I'm rambling, but anyway.
So,
sorry.
Go ahead. So I had a couple of those students reach out to me in frustration about feeling like they're not being heard and that their experiences are not validated. And I encouraged them to do what they did today, right? Because I believed we need to hear exactly what they experienced. So we can put things on plaques, we can put things on paper, we can say we're doing this, but when it comes down to it, what goes on with those students in the classrooms and the hallways and the buses, that's where the rubber hits the road. And listening to those students today talk about being called the N-word and how they're treated and how that's ignored, all the things that we know that we're doing, we ain't doing it because it's still happening. I met with kids at Christopher High School over a period of a couple of years and listening to their comments about what goes on. And I have brought that back and said, sent out emails and said, I just met with these students and this is what they're saying that they have to deal with every day. And they stood out there and said the same stuff they have to deal with every day, because the accountability piece and making sure what we say is supposed to be happening in those buildings is not happening. It's not. And all you had to do was listen to them today. Current students, former students, teachers, parents. We have to do a better job in understanding and listening to our students because they're there, listening to our teachers who are saying, yeah, this is happening and I don't necessarily have tools to understand what to do with it, or our administrators who are not enforcing, this is what you do with it. Unless we have a huge accountability pieces that are in place with the bias training, and there needs to be a test given. It can be anonymous, but people need to know, oh, through this test, I know I have some biases. Now, with the training, I understand how I move past those. And it can't be once a year. It has to be constant from the top down, that we understand how we think and feel about others affects our students and what happens in this country. Because any of those students out there could be George Floyd, or their father, or it can happen anywhere. And as this country explodes over what happened with Mr. Floyd, it continues to happen. There's a problem there. And we're tired of it as Black people in this country. And our students are tired of being treated the way they get treated. Our administrators, our teachers, they're tired of having to put up with comments and things that
people may not intend to be hurtful or say it in a way that's just hurtful. We heard one of our students say that. And we just like, yeah, okay. Well, we're tired of, yeah, okay. There has to be a change. There has to be very open, frank discussion, and we stop and say, wait a minute, let's talk about what you just said or what you just did. Because listening to, we need to, say what we're doing. Well, we really shouldn't say some of the stuff that we're doing because it doesn't show. And unless we put some huge accountability to that and that it is backed up when it is raised, then we're going to be right here having that same conversation again. But the way things are going right now and the way those young folks showed up today and community showed up today, I don't think we're going to be having the same conversation. And if we are, none of us need to be here. None of us.
Well, I definitely totally agree on that. And I know this is not necessarily all about me, but I felt like I have to defend the reason I put that affirmation or resolution on the agenda that day, because it was already a week past. We didn't do anything. And I was at the community event with Dialogue on Race and Law Enforcement, that day that you organized, Ms. Franklin. And, I had my Dialogue on Race hat there, not necessarily I was representing school board, but again, I felt like because Mayor Stolt and all the town chiefs, law enforcement told, our sheriff told, and then 2 mayors told, and the board of supervisor chair told, and I felt like, we should have said something, I should have been in a part of that conversation. So that, since then it bothered me that the first opportunity when I saw the VSBA and really that morning, that email came. And I don't know, it probably came all the board members if you have seen it. So it was in our email that morning, and that's why I put on the agenda that evening. And we usually don't do things like that, but when I, thought about it, how timely and urgent it is, and thinking that it is not a policy that requires 2 reading. It's not like we are making any law or signing our life away. We were just like saying that we condemn racism and Black Lives Matter, our Black students matter. That's why it was rushed. And under normal circumstances, as a board chair, I do not motion, but it is not illegal board chair to motion. If board chair decides that it is an important thing, they can motion. In fact, I attended one of the board governors conferences because up to that point I thought the chairs never can motion. But they can motion, but it's not a good practice per se because you want the other board members have the chance to do that. But I never thought I would like Ms. Franklin to do the motion, so I was not going to wait. So I did what I did, and I am not definitely sorry about it. That was the right thing to do, at least for me. And I am so glad that actually we are, as a board, standing behind the resolution and approved it. And only thing, I know this board has always come together to do best for the students and for all the students. And it has been 7 years that I'm on the board. We made great gains, toward diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think definitely we're not there. We are not there at all. And, I'm really thankful the students that parents and teachers came and talked this afternoon. I think we have to do more listening and more appreciating our backgrounds. And I think as a board, we should probably sit and have some implicit bias training or diversity training or teacher tolerance training, whatever our school division is doing first, I think we should sign up to. I know this is not a board report, but past 3 months, I had little too much time in my hand, and you don't need to travel, and webinars is in front of you. So like I attended Silicon Valley webinars, and two of them actually was, one of them was on equity and the other one was on implicit bias. And the example given, I like to share because I will probably look at this commercial and will never capture it that way. But that was, actually, there were two commercial examples given at the conference done by VSBA, implicit bias training. And one commercial was a Dove, body soap. And the individual on the commercial is in a brown shirt. And when it gets cleaned, it changes to white shirt. And it was totally jaw-dropping for me because that means that Black people are dirty. And then the other thing was a light Heineken commercial. And then the barman throws the bottle from the bar toward the end. And it passes all beautiful African-American people, all people, young people, and goes all the way to the end. A beautiful white person takes the beer and drinks it, and it just says, light is better. So we have all those things, and we really don't realize, and we have to really understand what our Black brothers and sisters are thinking about, and what we have to, as white people, realize that we have to make a difference, and we have to do it, because if it was for them, it could have been done, I think, for 100 years. So that's what I did, and I'm glad that at the end we still work together. Only thing I was really sad, because on a normal day, if we were in a dais, when I say the public address, I open it with, you have 3 minutes about anything, defamation, name calling on a personnel or a student, it's not tolerated. Unfortunately, we are so quick to hide behind the screens of social media, computers, and this and that. So there was a lot of defamatory remarks for board members, and I think that was not right. It shouldn't have happened. But it is, again, the unfortunate times with the social media. We're so quick to say anything that comes to our mind without thinking the consequences or showing the respect. So, and I'm sorry that some board members had to deal with that. So that's probably it. Any other comments? This is a long information announcement session, or this is actually still unfinished business.
Unfinished business.
Any unfinished business? And about any new business?
I actually have one thing, and it's something I'd like to discuss next week. One of the students who was outside forwarded to me, I guess, and I don't know if it went, maybe it went to Dr. Meyer, I don't know, but it was, I'm opening it up now so I remember, I guess their demands, that they called their demands, but they bring up some I think really important issues, and I think it's important that we address them, the fact that they took the time to put these together. And some of them are, we've talked about already. And I know, it's kind of getting late here. I don't know if we want to, and it is just new business, I guess. Do we just bring this forward for the next meeting, or how would we deal with this? Because I think I don't want to ignore them.
I think you're going to receive those, all right? I think they said they would send.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I would recommend, in listening to what was said, I recommend they go to Judy's committee to evaluate how everything will fit in. And then they make recommendations to us as to how we proceed. Because we're working through the.
I think that we as a board, and they were talking to the board.
They want us to talk
They
about
want
this.
us to affirm that we heard what they said. And
I can read them right now if you want.
Passing stuff, we're going to pass this off.
I don't.
No, they want us to affirm that
we heard
Mhm.
what they said.
And it's either, we listen now or we can bring it up to the next meeting and talk about it then. I don't know what the best way to do it, but I think that it's important to bring it forward and not ignore it.
Well, and I'll do what the board tells me to do. That's fine, obviously. And if four of you all want to bring it and be the ones that directly talk about it, then I'm fine with that.
No, I'm saying, I would like to, I heard it because I was out there, but in our board meeting, I think it's important this evening, as late as it is, for those to be read so that they know we heard what they said as a board.
And I'm totally okay with that.
So you're going to read them right now?
I can read it right now.
What
I mean, I'm fine with it, but I didn't have them,
I don't have them. Do you have them?
So,
I have it, and it's an email that was forwarded to me. I can read it out loud or.
Sure. Yeah.
Please forward it to the rest of us.
Yeah.
I could just forward it all to you now and you could.
But read it out loud.
First, if you would.
First, the first one is we demand anti-racist committees be formed within schools that will guide and provide accountability for anti-racist work. I think that's it.
Can I address that one? That's something that, Ms. Diggs, can you come on up here? I need you in this conversation. I think you know some things that's going to happen.
Okay, so I really don't want to have a conversation at 10:12 tonight.
I'm reading them just, we want to
If we
acknowledge.
read them, because we still have work we have to do
So you don't want to have a conversation, you just want to hear them.
Just
tonight, yes.
Want to hear them.
tonight, and then we'll.
The whole board.
About all of them right now. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Since we
Yeah.
just want to close
I'm
mission.
excited about answering that one, because we already got that one covered.
Second one is we demand anti-racist training programs in addition to teaching tolerance, created and fully vetted alongside our Black advocates and community members. Okay. So, and I'm assuming they're talking about for administration and teachers when they talk about training programs.
Yeah, they said from everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
We demand ongoing and systematic, anti-racist and anti-bias teacher training led by Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Within this teacher training, specific work towards changing pedagogy. Ever in my life. Thank you. And I was a teacher. Practices. The language we use, the texts and materials we present to our students, and the curriculum we build to see how we can change them to be culturally inclusive, responsive, and anti-racist. Please see the attached chart that outlines steps we can take. I don't have that. I will say that's training they're talking about. There's one thing that I think we need to address that is something that with the state, but is the history curriculum that we have. I mean, as a former history teacher, I was always amazed by what we actually teach in the state of Virginia when it comes to Black culture and Indigenous people. It's pretty pitiful. We demand examination by leadership teams and teachers of school or district policies that discriminate, target/police students of color. So they're talking about here, hair policies, dress codes that include hoodie or hat policies, etc. An example of a policy we believe should be abolished is within MCPS policy 7-3.1, be revised to eliminate the ban on Black power symbols within the dress code. We have a specific code for that?
That's right alongside the Confederate flag. I think that came up during that conversation as an example.
It was controversial then, I think.
And it was
too.
controversial. Mhm. So anyway, all right. Yeah, is that it, the
Nope.
last one?
We got 4 more. We demand examination of the use of standardized tests and performance data in determining student placement into higher or lower classes, as well as in the scheduling and instruction of Black students. I think we started talking about that to some degree. That definitely needs to be discussed. We demand educational programs for our students on how to identify, engage, and dismantle racism and oppression within ourselves and among those around us. I think student programs would be a great idea. We demand open lines of communication created in which students can voice concerns or complaints, whether they be written, anonymously if needed, or in person. I think the thought that group thing would be helpful for that. And a revamp of the county's discipline practices, which currently disproportionately punish Black students. And they actually gave a chart here of different percentages through the last several years of population of I'm not sure, again, I'm assuming Black students versus the number of suspensions and the disproportion of that. And they want words. I mean, they want action, not words. Sorry, guys. Action, not words. They want you. And I don't think anything they've asked is beyond.
That was the end of their list? That's their list? Okay.
I think it's a great list.
It's a great list.
I again recommend, and a lot of this is work that's got to be done. It's set up.
Yeah.
And that's why I was recommending that Judy and her committee do the work involved in making this happen.
And bring it to us.
And bring it to you
It's
guys.
just good to
as
hear what
the,
they said because I couldn't hear everything from the appeal.
'Cause there's work that's got to be done with all that, and I don't see any of it being unreasonable. In fact, I'd say most of it we thought of through your committee already, Judy, through the strategic planning process. Is that accurate?
It is accurate.
Yeah, they're all the action plans.
Yeah.
When we were outside, I think at one point, Dr. Meyer, you said to the crowd something about, we need you guys to be involved. And I think somebody shouted something back about, you guys need to do the work. And I want to make sure people that understand, and it's related to this too, that I desire, and I think hopefully the rest of the board does too, conversation. I want to hear from people. Especially want to hear from our Black students, our Black teachers, our Black staff. I want to hear what we can do to help and make things better. I've read things because as a parent, that's what we do. But, I want to know what people, I want them to be able to inform us too. And I don't mind some of the stuff that's going to work in a committee or in a group, but I do think it's important at some point that we as a board at least discuss some of these things at a high level. Because there's other things I've been thinking about that, I'd at least like to, have a chance to, I'd like to hear other people. I'd like to think through some things and, this is a good list, but it may not be exhaustive. There might be other things that we can do, so.
I'll say this, a lot of what was said, a lot of it has to be settled at the school level, and that's something we need to really focus on. Principals and teachers and how they address or don't address the whole, and the accountability there needs to be had. And, we've made some attempts, obviously we haven't done enough. Something that came up, several times that was disheartening to me and is the number of times, racial slurs have been made towards these students, and that someone said a staff member was standing right there when it happened. And we've given directives to principals to give to teachers that this is unacceptable. In fact, every time a slur is used, the direction is that it is reported to Judy, so we actually keep data on that. And from the conversation today, obviously that's not happening all the time. And that's a problem. And so we need to work towards that. And I think the training will hopefully help some understand why that's important. Ms. Diggs, you got any thoughts there?
I do, because for those who don't think it's important, they need to find someplace else to be.
Absolutely. Yep, I agree. We're going to take them to the water. If they decide not to drink it, then I agree 100%. That's not who we want teaching our kids.
Right.
We just don't.
And I agree with you 100%.
Any other new business? Moving on, announcement information. And agenda preparation is now, we all know, July 21st is the meeting day. 7 o'clock, normal meeting time.
Yeah, we need to update that on our,
on the board, I think, agenda.
on the upcoming school board meetings.
Yeah, it's not there, I think, right now. And if anything else, we are in another closed session. Are we good? Next order of business is a closed session. May I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss two personnel matters as authorized by section 2.2-2711 of Code of Virginia.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in closed session.
That'll be just a few minutes, pause.
Sure. No, this time.